on March 20-something, 4th, 2026. And no actions were taken, no decisions made in the executive session, which was for the purpose of conducting Town Administrator Mahalick's annual review. So we're back in open session. Anyone who would like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us may do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a proclamation. Who from the audience is involved in the volunteer proclamation? Well, I'll read it anyway.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
they are.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, got it. Whereas the foundation of a humane and just society is the people's willingness to work together for the common good, and whereas our volunteers demonstrate that it is possible to bring people together in response to our community's critical needs, and whereas April is National Volunteer Month and provides an opportunity to recognize the individuals who selflessly give of their time and talents, and whereas in 2025, 262 individuals gave 27,321 hours to the town of Estes Park through service on boards, commissions, programs, services, and events, which equates to a value of $950,498. And whereas it is the duty of every resident and leader to honor our dedicated volunteers and celebrate the volunteer programs that contribute to the quality of life in Estes Park now, therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the town of Estes Park do hereby proclaim the month of April as Volunteer Month in the town of Estes Park, and we urge all citizens to join in recognizing these many unselfish, committed individuals. There you go. Thank you, volunteers. And so if you could come forward.
Any volunteers?
Any volunteers?
Anyone that volunteers?
Any and all of them. Right.
Every, yeah.
You got police, police auxiliary, you got all that.
Police auxiliary.
You're getting police people. There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything. Really.
We are terrible taking group pictures.
Yeah, we are.
Take charge. Mr. Wild West?
Will you hold on just a second? Will the board stand together? But so we can, because
I want the volunteers to come
we're
right here.
not very good at taking pictures. Can you come back here just a little bit? Yeah.
No, you go
No,
in, I'm just
cowboy
kicking.
hat.
Let's organize this a little bit. Everybody tuck in. Maybe around the mayor. Okay, yeah,
Where's
mayor's
Mayor?
in there.
He's right there.
Okay, now we're
No,
not
good.
lined up though. We're,
No,
wait.
No, you just go in,
Come
because
this
I'm,
way.
and I'm
Either
peeking
you
this
guys
way.
come this way.
Oh my gosh.
Come this way.
Come this way.
There we go.
There you go.
There we are.
Volunteer. Thank you.
You did it.
Good work, Mayor. Thanks, Mark.
All right. I love those proclamations, especially when it's for something that selfless. Okay, we're going to go on to the agenda approval. I'll ask if there are any changes or additions to the agenda as written. I see
I think we're gonna pull number 5 in the consent agenda. Otherwise, I approve the consent agenda with the exception of number 5.
Actually, that could happen when we're approving the consent agenda, but I'm okay
that's
with
what
it. I don't think there's anything illegal about stating it at this point, and so we will remove 5 from the consent agenda for separate consideration.
I'll second that.
Can I just
And-
confirm we're approving the agenda
Right.
and we're removing 5 from the consent agenda?
Correct.
Okay, just confirming.
All right, we can vote. Agenda approved as written, with the exception that item 5 is removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration. The next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. This is not a question and answer period. Any public comment on quasi-judicial items must be reserved for the appropriate public hearing. Does any member of the public request to speak on a non-agenda item? We'll have a 3-minute time limit. I see one. You may come forth. And state your name.
John Guffey, 561 Chapin Lane, Estes Park. I have several things I want to comment on, and the first being this community's sacred location. Sacred being that connection to the earth and that piece of this cosmic reality that we live in, upon which we stand and walk and work and serve. Volunteers, congratulations to them. Recognizing that that's a commitment to the community. And that's the most important thing I want to say. But I also want to recognize Gaza City, which seems to have slipped under the rug lately due to the fact that Iran is being bombarded with missiles and other debris from space, from a space of mind that is missing from our leadership. The third thing I want to bring up is Tehran, which has been the recipient of our attention as a country, and I think as a community. I believe that we are responsible for what's happening in our government. I also want to recognize that the school district is seeking a superintendent. And to me, that has relevance for the community, because a superintendent who thinks of education as occurring inside of the walls of a building in a school, whether it's elementary or preschool or middle school or high school, needs to be aware that the community is part of that educational experience, and that the superintendent can actually help develop an educational system that works for everyone, especially children growing up in a community, being encouraged and supported and given the opportunity to serve as part of their education, to learn to serve and to serve to learn. The volunteers that work, I didn't see any children up here. I wonder why. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other folks wishing to make a comment on an item not on the agenda? I see none. We'll move forward to town board comments and liaison reports. Tonight, I'm going to start with Trustee Brown.
All right, I am liaison to, among other entities, the Board of Adjustment. We had a very, very unusual Board of Adjustment meeting this month, a 3-hour Board of Adjustment meeting, which I understand from everyone I've talked to, it's the longest they've ever had. And it was really 2 variance requests. One was a variance request that the Housing Authority was seeking with respect to the ooh, that's terrible. Wetlands, wetlands setback for the fish hatchery project. And that's what took 2 hours, and the other one took an hour. And the 2-hour one essentially got deferred until the next meeting. The next meeting is April 7th. And so if you're interested in that fish hatchery project at all, I encourage you to go to that. And it'll probably be another lengthy meeting, but it's government in action, and it's a very interesting process. There was a lot of additional information requested from the Housing Authority that I think they have since delivered. So that will be an interesting public event. And it happens to be election day, so make sure you vote by then too. So that's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Hazelton.
A few things tonight, Mayor. First, I just wanted to share for restorative justice. I had mentioned at our last meeting that we were about to have the annual meeting. That got rescheduled. So we actually are having our annual board meeting this Thursday at 9 a.m. The reason it's an annual meeting is to appoint officers and do kind of all of their traditional yearly duties, but that board does meet every other month. So they'll also pick up their regular duties there. And then, like many of us, I'm sure, between now and May 2nd, I want to encourage you to consider restorative justice when you are purchasing ducks for the duck race. They do great work for our community. They are an option for when you choose a duck. So please consider getting at least one or maybe a quack pack and writing down restorative justice as the recipient. For Visit Estes Park, I wanted to report on a few things from our meeting. We met last Thursday afternoon. First, and Sarah's in this room, I wanted to welcome Sarah Leonard, our CEO, as an official resident of the Estes Valley now. She has moved to town, so we're very excited about that. I know this board was very, that was an important value to this board, to make sure we had a CEO in our community. So welcome, Sarah, officially. And I also want to welcome a new staff member for Visit Estes Park. Amanda Sherlin is the new Vice President of Visitor Experience is her official title. So she has a wonderful professional history, a lot of great experience in the marketing world, in particular in destination marketing, and think she's going to bring a lot to the organization. So very excited to work with her. The board also appointed the Marketing Advisory Committee. This board will remember that is a component of the new IGA. We're going to talk about the updated bylaws tonight as well. But that Marketing Advisory Committee does include past Visit Estes Park board members, including Deb Gibson. She was the first one on there, and then we've added 15 others, representatives of the community in various business industries and geographic locations around town, which is wonderful. And I believe it's anticipated their first meeting will be in April. So looking forward to having them working with the organization as well. And we heard from, I mentioned this in the study session, but we had a presentation from the Larimer County Office of Emergency Management as well as the Fire Protection District, sharing about the Protecting the Gateway to the Rockies Defense Grant, which is a wildfire mitigation grant, $9.8 million. You may have heard that came to Larimer County. There was some news about it a few weeks back, but we heard a whole presentation from them about what that grant application entailed, where the mitigation work will be happening, how it fits in with other mitigation projects in our community, which is especially relevant since we have the Watershed Coalition presenting tonight about their base funding. So really a fabulous presentation, and I requested that they come before the town board at a regular meeting. I requested study session, and Cindy had the great idea for a regular meeting to make sure the community can be looped into that. It's just fabulous info. It's certainly not going to solve all of the projects that we need to get done, but it's a great dent and a good start. So very much looking forward to having them come before the board. And then I just wanted to I'm sure there's gonna be a few comments tonight, and I know we have an agenda item specifically related to this, but I wanted to take a moment to thank Trustee Youngland. This is her last meeting with us after 6 years of extremely dedicated service. And I just wanted to thank her for her leadership, of course. There are a few things that I've learned from her. I mean, there are a lot of things I've learned from her, but a few things I wanted to mention tonight. Really her institutional knowledge about Estes Park and business ownership and tourism, and how long Cindy and her family have been cornerstone members of our community is just incredible. She has brought such depth of knowledge to this board. Her thoughtfulness and commitment to this position, and how much she has she comes in totally prepared with her questions. She does her research. She reaches out. She listens to community members, and comes in with a robust kind of picture of each agenda item. I just have so much gratitude for the work Cindy has brought to our community, and I hope the community feels the same way. It will be a loss to not have her sitting in this chair next to me, at least for the next couple of meetings. So I just wanted to thank you, Cindy, for everything you've done, and you will be missed. And that's all for me tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Youngland.
I don't have anything tonight.
Right. Thank you. I did lots of stuff in the last 2 weeks, so there you go. That's my report. I will make mention that I went to the Preserve Estes Park Forum last night. A lot of different questions, so it was really good to hear all of the candidates there. And the biggest reaction of the night was when Kirby pointed out that the girls soccer won their game 8-1 yesterday. So there you go. Anyway, that's my report. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
So I did want to echo everything that Kirby said about Cindy, but I'm going to say a few things in a little while about Cindy, so I'll hold back a little bit. The rooftop rodeo mutton busting entries will open up April 1st. If you are anywhere from the age of 5 to 8. You can put your application in at rooftoprodeo.com. They will pick from that a certain amount each night. I think it's 10 each night, and then there's a few spots that open up the night of the rodeo. But those spots are basically advanced beforehand. And the rodeo this year is July 6th through July 11th. So you can start getting your tickets soon. Is anybody who's not been to the rooftop rodeo, it's a great rodeo, and you should. It's just a nice night. Everybody comes together in the community, and it's just really enjoyable. I also went to CAS this past week. It's a lot of the legislature that's coming out does affect some of the ski towns, which we are considered in that group. So I did send my notes off to the other trustees. It's in a public email, so please feel free to read those. They are notes, so they're a little cryptic, but it just talks about the different legislature that's going through at the state level that has some effects on us. And that is it for me right now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, turn on my microphone. Couple things. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and PEP for the candidate forums. Both were well done, well attended, and done with civility and respect. And that's how we do things at Estes Park. And it was proud to see it done that way. It was well done. Related to that, complete your ballots and get them in. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You need to participate. So get those votes in and get them in on time. And last, I want to mention we do have a trustee talk coming up Thursday. Trustee Sinek and I are going to be here in this room at 10 o'clock in the morning. It'll be a morning one. So come on down. It's a great forum to just openly talk about anything you want to talk about at the town. And we'll be there for about an hour. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Eigel.
Thanks, Mayor. In conjunction with Volunteer Month, as the liaison to the Police Auxiliary, I want to recognize a couple of members there that have received service pins at the annual award banquet, and this seemed to be really good timing, so this is master strategy planning. There are several members that have put in a lot of hours. Overall, in the police department, volunteers for the police department, which includes people at the counter, restorative justice, police auxiliary, almost 8,000 hours, 7,902 hours just in that department. So the police department functions very well with a lot of support from the community on their own time. But I want to call out specifically several people who put in a lot of hours. There are two chaplains within the police department, Doris Ratch and Larry Strong. Doris she got her 500-hour service pin. Larry got a 1,000-hour service pin. The commander this year is Julie Lee. She got her 1,000-hour service pin. Julie's standing in the back there. Dennis Hoshiko, also 1,000 hours. Steve Furman, 3,000 hours. And these are hours that are cumulative since they started volunteering as police auxiliary, so they just keep going. Interestingly, Bill Bradford, who was named the Auxiliary Volunteer of the Year. He's been serving since 2012. He got his 5,000 hour pin. But here's the really funny one. If you've ever seen it's not funny, it's interesting. If you've ever seen the police auxiliary car, there's a very high percentage chance that a man standing in the room is in that vehicle because he got his 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000 hour pin, service pin, David White, there in the back. Thank you, David, for working so hard for our community. So I think those folks deserve recognition, but there are so many people that volunteer. We really did not do justice in just a proclamation to thank the community for that almost $1 million in labor. So I want to acknowledge that's valuable. There are a lot of places you can volunteer in town, but the town as a whole gets the benefit of these people. My only other issue, only other subject would be that election. You don't have to go to all the meetings. You don't have to study up on everything. You don't have to watch these painfully long meetings, but you really have to vote. You really have to be thoughtful when you vote if you want to participate in what's going on in the community. We really need you to participate and get out to vote. If you don't have a ballot and you're a town resident, please see Town Clerk Williamson in the clerk's office, and she will make sure everything's right. Election day is April 7th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And one other comment, thanks to Officer Binsfield for our protection tonight. Safety is everything. We'll move on to the town administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a policy governance report this evening. This is a big one. Every March I have a number of policies that only come up once a year. So I do have one non-compliance and 3 partial compliance elements to call out in that report. You have heard of all of these before. Some of these are from last year. Some of these are from earlier this year. I am going to go through those at a summary level, but if you have further questions, there are details in the packet, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions here. The first item is policy 3.4.5. The issue there was staff has discovered 3 contracts or POs that were erroneously executed at the staff level when they should have come to the board. 1 for cleaning and 2 for trash services. We have identified the root causes of those issues. Our Tyler ERP system is going to help with that, as well as supervisor and new purchasing training for people with purchasing authority. The second item is a partial compliance 3.5.3. This has to do with comments in the annual audit that raised questions about inefficient controls or insufficient controls. You all remember related to the 2024 audit, there was we did receive an unqualified clean audit opinion, but the auditor did note a significant deficiency, less than a material weakness, but still a problem in internal controls related to financial statement preparations. You all recall that report to you. Staff did not agree with that categorization as a significant deficiency. That does not matter relative to how I interpret this policy, so I'm reporting on that for this report. The third item is the rental of real property. Last year, the police department rented a storage unit for uniforms and the like. Seemed like a reasonable move, but under town policy and the signatory policy at that time, staff were not allowed to enter into any agreement for real property, which that constituted. That policy has since been amended with board consent. Staff can sign leases for a year or less, but that was a violation at that time last spring. This is the first time this policy is coming back around, which is why it's being reported tonight. And lastly, failing to provide support for official town board activities or communications. As I reported to you 2 meetings ago, I neglected to provide you all with the 2-week notification for the board's self-monitoring process. I was a week late on that. You ultimately had to continue that item to another meeting. So I am reporting partial compliance there. While I generally provide you with the information you need to be successful, I did not in that instance. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Trustee Lancaster.
Yes, Administrator. On 3.5.3, the one with the comments from the auditor, I know didn't necessarily agree with them, but did we make any adjustments to try and address those or? you think
Those were
it's-
related to internal payments. I'd have to wrap back around with our finance director. I do not anticipate that the issues that cropped up then will happen again, but I will bring back a more detailed response to that at our next meeting.
Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, I do have a couple of
Another
other
item.
items. Yep.
Okay.
One, I also want to extend my gratitude to employees. You all heard a lot of service hours there, specifically in the auxiliary. They do a wonderful job of tracking that. Just for reference, 10,000 hours is roughly a full-time employee for 5 years. That is a significant service accomplishment. 2,080 hours a year is what a full-time employee will clock in hours without overtime. And as you've heard, we have many, many volunteers that have provided that amount of service. It's pretty remarkable that we have volunteers that have effectively worked an entire full 40-hour-a-week job for the town. Our operations could not occur without that support from the community. So I want to add my voice to the recognition there. And I'd also like to ask Town Clerk Williamson if she would provide an election update as well.
Yeah, I want to thank the board for mentioning it several times tonight. It is a very important item that we have going on in the clerk's office right now to elect 4 of you to the next term. I did want to let everyone know that we sent out 4,254 domestic ballots, and so they've been out for about a week now. If you have not received your ballot, please contact the clerk's office, 970-577-4777, or email us at townclerk.org. I don't even know where I work. Estes.org, townclerk@estes.org. Wow, it must have been a long day. And it's still gonna keep on going, right? I do also wanna mention, if anybody's watching this and is not in town and they're watching this tonight, remind them that ballots cannot be forwarded. So if you're anticipating your ballot to show up wherever you are right now, that won't happen. So please contact us as well to get a ballot sent to you. That's pretty important. I think that at this point, if you have not received a ballot, we really want you to reach out to us. We've only received about 400 ballots back to date. So we're really encouraging people to look in those mailboxes, grab those ballots, and get them voted and turned in. You can drop them off here out front of Town Hall, adjacent to Bond Park, in the drop box, or come by our office. My staff loves seeing you, so we would appreciate if you would get those ballots voted and turned in. Thank you, Mayor.
One of the 400 is mine. Anything else, Travis? Okay, we're going to move on to a item described as acknowledgement of Trustee Youngland. And Town Clerk, please guide me if I go astray on the order of the agenda. But because Mayor Pro Tem Sinak and Trustee Youngland have shared 6 years together, I think it's appropriate to read the statement, the official statement by Murray.
Plus, I begged him to do it, so. If you would join me, Trustee Youngland, down at the microphone down there. If the other trustees would like to join us down there, you're more than welcome. Figure out how this is gonna work. Cindy, why don't you come right here? It is kind of about you. Get comfortable. So from the Office of the Mayor, Estes Park, Colorado, a resolution of respect. Whereas Cindy Youngland served the citizens of Estes Park as trustee of the town of Estes Park from 2020 to 2026, and whereas Cindy participated in the community of Estes Park in numerous capacities through a variety of organizations, including the Estes Area Lodging Association, the Estes Park Chamber of Commerce, and the Estes Park Wedding Association, and whereas during her tenure as trustee, Cindy facilitated the revision, approval, increase, establishment, improvement, and/or implementation of the following: acquisition of the Thumb Open Space and adoption of the Thumb Open Space Management Plan, addition of the Sustainability Management Objective to the 2024 Strategic Plan, adoption of the 2021 International Building Codes, including the Energy Conservation Code and the Property Maintenance Code, adoption of the 2022 Model Traffic Code, adoption of the Estes Ford Comprehensive Plan, adoption of the Facilities Master Plan, adoption of the Workforce Housing and Child Care Funding Plan and Policies, completion of the Downtown Estes Loop, COVID-19 safety efforts, outreach, and relief funding, establishment of the Seasonal Paid Parking Program, formation of the Environmental Sustainability Task Force, rebuilding and improvements to the Prospect Mountain Water Distribution System, renaming of the Jim Detterline Memorial Climbing Wall, renaming of the Women's Heritage Plaza, support for accessory dwelling unit regulation amendments to the Development Code, support for ballot issue 1A to extend the additional 1% sales tax, support for ballot issue 3A to fully debruce, support for ballot issue 6E to increase the lodging tax to support workforce housing and childcare in the Estes Valley, support for childcare needs assessment and strategic plan, support for the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council to addressing the opioid crisis, support for the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, support for co-responder programs, support for denouncing restrictive covenants based on race or religion, support for the Downtown Wayfinding Signage Program, support for emergency response for the Cameron Peak and East Troublesome fires, support for the Estes Valley Trails Master Plan, trails system expansion and construction, support for expanding community accessibility and transparency by increasing ADA compliance and translation services, support for process improvement and document management initiatives in Laserfish and improve access to town records on the public records portal, support for the relocation of the police department to the new public safety facility, support for Sister City Monteverde, Costa Rica educational and cultural exchange programs, support for vacation home regulation amendments and establishment of the workforce housing regulatory linkage fee, support for various workforce housing projects. Whereas Cindy served in the following groups committees: Estes Park Board of Appeals, the Estes Park Sister Cities Association, Family Advisory Board, Parks Advisory Board, Police Auxiliary, and the Regional Opioid Abatement Council. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Town of Estes Park, by this resolution and public record, recognize the dedication and leadership of Cindy Youngland and express profound appreciation for her service to our community and becoming my really good friend.
Thank you.
Thank you. The fun part's not even there. Great job.
You get the reception line here.
Cindy, we also have for you, we don't like plaques very much in our office, so we got you a photo, one of the James Franks, and it does have a plaque on the back that acknowledges your years of service with the town. So this is for you. When you leave, we've got this, we'll wrap it up. And then Estelle Purvis, who was in dispatch, she's now retired, but she does these lovely little pillows that she likes to do with the town seal for you. So we have that for you as well. Okay? Yeah. And we'll wrap that up for you.
Jackie, are there more proceedings?
I just want to say thank you for
There you go.
everything. I'm not very good at this, so it's been a fantastic 6 years. I can't say much about these fellow trustees and the team we had before and the team coming. It's just the opioid abatement is so dear to me, and I hope people can be involved with that. Even sitting out here, you can be. I encourage you to participate in that, and also in your town government. please get out and vote and volunteer for positions. And it's just such a learning experience. I can't explain the amount of knowledge that I've gained over the 6 years about our community, that I never knew how things worked and why things were done the way they were. So thank you very much for your support. I have truly enjoyed and felt proud to represent my town. Thank you.
And you can't leave yet.
Long agenda, just for you.
Long night.
I learn from Cindy every meeting, and I guess we've said plenty at this point. Could not say too much, but thanks again for being my left-hand person. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda where we removed item 5, but we still need to read it into the record. Mayor Pro Tem, you're all warmed up. Could I have you do that?
My pleasure. So on the consent agenda, we have the expenditure approval lists with the bills, the town board meeting and study session minutes dated March 10th, 2026, town board agenda consent town board strategic planning session number 1, minutes dated March 9th, 2026, Estes Park Board of Adjustments reappointment of Jeff Moreau for a three-year term expiring March 31st, 2029. Police Department Motorola radio purchase of $263,697 budgeted. Resolution 27-26, amendments to a professional service agreement with executive partnering to invest in children for a child care facility master's plan. Resolution 28-26, services contract with RATP Development, USA Incorporated for 2026 operation of the peak, $583,486.09 budgeted. Resolution 29-26, contracts for on-call general contracting services with Growing Bear Company, TCC Corp., and Whitestone Construction budgeted. Resolution 30-26, efficiency works, incentives and requests for payment terms and conditions to secure a rebate of $9,975 for LED lighting replacement completed at Town Hall. Resolution 31-26, setting the public hearing for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Estes Rooftop Hub, Inc., doing business as Soleil Rooftop Cantina and Tequila Bar. It's 165 Virginia Drive, Estes Park, Colorado. Letters of support for community project funding through the congressional directed spending process for the Estes Park Stanley Park Complex Economic Development and Community, read that word. Estes Park Stanley Park Complex Economic Development and Community Infrastructure Project, funding for replacement of the Stanley Park Event Center stall barns, acceptance of Town Administrator Policy Governance Monitoring Report.
Does any member, or you can ask that.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Does any member of the, I don't know what you wanted me to ask, any member of the town board have any comments or any public comment?
Or ask to have an item removed from the
for that
consent
too.
agenda.
We already have 5
Don't
removed.
have any, yeah. So we can take a motion to approve with minus item 5.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek moved to approve. Trustee Hazelton seconded. We can vote. Wow, Sarah got it sped up. Okay, the consent agenda is approved minus item 5. We'll now turn to item 5, Estes Park Planning Commission reappointment of Julie Ferris for a 5-year term expiring March 31st, 2031. Who can give me, yeah, okay. Town clerk.
I will own this one. I am not really sure where I got 5 years from, pulled it out of a hat apparently. But the bylaws actually state that this is to be a 6-year term appointment. So I'd like to amend the action item tonight to appoint Julie Ferris to a 6-year term that would expire, I believe, March 31st, 2032, which is really hard to say and imagine. So that is really what we would like to do tonight, if the board so chooses.
Is there any public comment on this item? Board, any comments? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll move to approve the Estes Park Planning Commission reappointment of Julie Ferris for a 6-year term expiring March 31st, 2032.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek moved to approve item 5, and Trustee Lancaster seconded. We can vote. Okay, onward. Consent agenda, item 5 approved. Reports and discussion item outside entities. We get a 2025 base funding report from the Estes Valley Watershed Coalition. I think President Bob Levitt.
See if I can find them for you.
Is this on? Yeah, it's on. Okay. Thank you, board and mayor and town staff, for the opportunity to present our annual report.
And you had that great celebration. I think it was a 10-year
We did.
anniversary at the Legion a few weeks ago, too.
We've been around 10 years now. Okay. Let's see. Display. Little
There
technology
you
here,
go.
stuff here. Wait a minute. There we go. Okay, here's our first slide. And first thing I want to mention is our board of directors. I'm really proud of the work they do. They're very engaged. We are very engaged in the projects of the Watershed Coalition, so it's not like sitting in an ivory tower somewhere. We are very involved. And of course, we couldn't do anything without our contract employees. They actually really do everything when it comes to it. Will Informel and Ashley Clean, they get manage our projects, and they get grants written and grants received, and it really works well for us. So our mission is to bring together local, state, and federal partners to collaborate on projects that support the waters, forest, and wildlife of the Estes Valley. I do like to read these two things. So our vision is we envision a healthy watershed that is resilient to extreme events, sustains diverse habitats for flora and fauna, and enhances the quality of life for our community. Now I'll see if I can move to the next slide. Yay. Okay, we have been around 10 years. We actually were incorporated in 2015, but the work really began in 2014 after the devastating flood that we had. So for the first few years, the organization spent its time cleaning up the rivers, reestablishing sustainability along the rivers, planting willows, putting exclosures in to keep the elk out, because we know what they do. And then about 2020, we began to expand our mission to include the hills and the mountains around the valley. And we got into doing tree thinning and opening up the canopy and making it more conducive for wildlife and just a good place. It also, we work closely with the fire district in these activities because it has very strong implications for fire mitigation when we do this work. So that's our last 10 years. And yes, we did have a great celebration, and the mayor and his wife provided our musical entertainment. Okay, next. So this is our territory for Estes Valley Watershed Coalition. It's the area outlined in red. It's smaller than the area that the Big Thompson Watershed Coalition has, which is everything downstream. We are from the Olympus Dam upstream, all the rivers, streams, and creeks that flow into the Big Thompson River. And the one at the bottom was the Little Thompson Watershed Coalition. They have since disbanded, but they were definitely a factor in recovery. And on the left-hand side, just to point out that we have some unique features, at least we think they're unique to our watershed coalition that some of the others don't have to deal with. Well, here's a list of our projects. The ones in green cover all of the past years as well as current time frame. And the yellows are the current projects we have, which a lot of those are along the Fish Creek area where we think we now have 3 beavers in residence there. We had 2 definitely, and we've seen 3 in a picture, so we think there's 3. But it's a lot more than just bringing back beaver habitat. It's the whole wetlands area, because what we're doing is not only creating habitat, but creating a buffer against floods that we might have in the future. That water will spread out into the wetlands instead of going straight down the river or straight down the creek. We also have projects starting up in the hills. We have Little Valley. We're going to be doing some mitigation work there with the neighborhood association there, doing some tree thinning. And in Cracker Ranch, we've reached out and we're going to work with them on some tree thinning. And of course, we have our ongoing projects above Mary's Lake and Thunder Mountain, where we've been working for several years. So that's kind of our map here. So how do we work with the town? Well, in the comprehensive plan, right now, the big thing is supporting the updating of the 2008 wildlife habitat assessment. Now there, we are working on talking to potential contractors to work with, or the consultants to work with us and getting an RFP out. We haven't completed all that yet, but we hope to get it soon so that we can also get grants and funding to get it started. We talked to you back in January about that. As far as the working with the town, of course, the core activity is related to disasters. Before a disaster, we're doing what we do now, which is fire mitigation work and working along the streams to create resilience. That's really essential. It's important work. We work with the fire district a lot on that. After a disaster, if we have another, which we will someday, we do the cleanup work along the rivers and streams. We are the only nonprofit in the Estes Valley that addresses the entire ecosystem, water, forest, and wildlife. And we do this through a broad collaboration. Okay, here's the numbers chart. And there's one thing on here I do need to point out, because this chart, I updated it with one small change since the year packet went out on Friday. On Monday, I discovered that under donations and in-kind revenue, I had a 0 under actuals for 2025, and it's actually 47,000. So what we have in those 2 columns is our operating expenses, or operating revenue, I'm sorry, in the top 3 items, and then our expenses at the bottom. And the $50,000 that we've had in 2025 and 2026, half of that, 25,000, has come from the town, and the other half has come from Northern Water. These funds are essential to our operation because we use this money to leverage our activities so that we can get grants, write grants, bring in projects, and also keep the lights on and pay for part of our contractors' salaries. So that's very important. There's an asterisk by one number because we're going to be doing a little more operating capacity expense this year because our part-timer is working more hours this year. I do want to point out one number. There's so many numbers over there, but the one under the 230 tons of woody biomass removed since 2020, that's dumpsters that we send out to neighborhoods. They kind of do a lottery and they get one to their neighborhood. They fill it full of whatever they've got, all the slash and limbs and anything else that they have that's of woody nature. And then we get it picked up, and then we have another set. We have 2 sets of 12 that go out each summer. And as a process, we've really reduced the fire material load in the valley.
Bob, can I ask, what do you do with all of that woody biomass? Where does it go?
Magic, no. It's taken, okay, so waste management, it's chipped basically
Okay,
and taken out that way.
all right, thanks.
And if I give a wrong answer, I have some of my cohorts here that'll correct me, but that's my understanding. Yeah, okay. This is our project summary, and it's kind of a long, intimidating list, so I'm not going to go through all of this because I was told I have 7 minutes or I will get my hand slapped if I go over, and I've probably already gone over. Let's see, and there's some stuff on the next couple slides that come and that explain some of this. I did want to mention under forest, because this was something that came up already, the Gateway Community Wildfire Defense and Grant Project. That's that 9.8 million. We don't get all of that, but we are getting some of it. We're working with other watershed coalitions and partners to carve out some projects for the Estes Valley out of that money. So it's going to have a real impact on our projects. In some cases, we don't get a grant we expected to, but we get one from this. So it kind of fills in things that we're doing. I'm going to run out of time. So what I'm going to say is if you have questions about these projects, ask me when I finish talking or send me an email about them, because I just don't have time to go through all the projects. And here's the second list here. We collaborate with Northern Colorado Fireshed Collaborative and the Big Thompson Watershed Health Partnership. These are really important groups for us and for the other watershed coalitions. Well, here's the logos of many of the organizations we collaborate with. We could not do this work without the collaboration and the funding, in some cases, from these organizations. This was real fast. I zipped through things. And I wonder, do you have questions for me at this point?
Great, spirited work for the good of all. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Well,
and
thank
all
you too.
Will do.
Yes, we enjoy it. We're very passionate about it, and thank you very much.
I just want to thank you too and acknowledge all of the cross-organizational collaboration that you do to fill in. You know, there's a lot of cooks in this kitchen, but it's an organized kitchen, right? And how you all work together is really, it's so needed, especially with all of the land partners. I mean, not just the organizations, but how we're surrounded by the feds, and we've got private landowners, and we've got all these things, BOR. It's just really compelling to see how that partnership works, so thank you.
Yeah, and I want to give credit to Willen and Ashley too. They sit on a lot of calls to coordinate this stuff, and a lot of face-to-face meetings too, but it's all essential to getting the work done.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. This is an organization that's close to my heart, but what you do, and we talk a lot about land use issues, planning and all that, and the forums, there was a lot of discussion about that. It was interesting how much people have forgotten about the flood. There wasn't much discussion about that. We had one candidate mentioned it. Kirby, thank you. Talking about, but we did talk about wildfire. The two are so tied together in the environment and how we do it. And you're really the only organization in the community that's got boots on the ground, pulling these things together and addressing if there's things that keep me up at night about the future of the town, it's wildfires and floods. And we can talk about housing, we can talk about development, but if it all burns to the ground or washes away, it's all a moot point. So it's easy to put that behind us and forget about it. And you guys are on the front line doing something to protect the future. And thank you very much.
And thank you for your support. It's really essential to the work we do.
And Trustee Youngland gets the last word.
Just a quick question. On the one slide you were showing us how many dumpsters, and you said you put those out in the community. Is that just strictly like an HOA would contact you, or just some neighborhood neighbors could get together and how would someone get that for their neighborhood?
It's usually a neighborhood association, but it can be a group of neighbors if they have the ability to manage it and control what goes in it. And, so we kind of do some vetting of the applicants to make sure that that works. And waste management is very important to this too. They give us a discount and then we're able to send these out to the community and they pick them up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a grant process, right? And the first window is open through the end of this month, and then there'll be another window where people can apply. Is that this?
Right, we do advertise it out, and of course, we get some of the same organizations each year and a few new ones, but they'll get it delivered, they'll work with it, they have a time limit, and then it gets picked up, and we like to see them filled.
Okay, so people should apply.
Yeah, come on down.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
And carry on. The next order of business is convening the Liquor Licensing Authority, which is kind of like water, right? So, for the town of Estes Park. The next order of I lost it. The next order of business will be the public hearing on the application of Sky Peak Group LLC, DBA Estes Park, for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license located at 145 East Elkhorn Avenue, Units 98 and 105, Estes Park, Colorado. At this hearing, the Liquor Licensing Authority shall consider the facts and evidence determined as a result of its investigation, as well as any other facts, the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood for the type of license for which application has been made, the desires of the adult inhabitants, the number, type, and availability of liquor outlets located in or near the neighborhood under consideration, and any other pertinent matters affecting the qualifications of the applicant for the conduct of the type of business proposed. This public hearing is open. Town Clerk, you can present the application.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I would like to add that this is an application that's being held concurrent with a concurrent review. Again, just for the board and for the community. That means that the state has been reviewing this application at the same time the town has been reviewing this application, in the hopes that that would speed up the review process in this application, or if approved, that liquor license would be issued quickly by the state. So with that, this application was filed on February 13th, 2026. You scheduled this meeting at your March 10th meeting for tonight. The neighborhood boundaries for this application are 3.25 miles. The town has received all the necessary paperwork and fees for this application. The applicant is filing as an LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. The property is Zone CD, commercial downtown, which allows this type of business to be permitted. And the notice of this hearing was published in the newspaper on March 13th, as well as the premise was posted on March 13th. There is a police report in your packet tonight. And at this time, I didn't clarify, one of the members of this LLC is involved in a liquor license currently, but the other is not. So I'm not sure if we've got the responsible vendor training scheduled. As a reminder to the board, I don't know that actually I've expressly told you this, but TIPS training is no longer. It's being replaced by responsible vendor training. Same training, just a different platform that they're utilizing. So we can verify that. The applicant is here tonight. If you have any questions for them, and I will turn it over to them.
A presentation. Thank you. What am I going to do without you over there turning on my button?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Daria Valkovets.
Agnes Nelson.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present tonight. We are representing Skypeak Group LLC, doing business as Estes Park. Estes Park is not going to be your typical coffee shop. We heard the need from a lot of residents in Estes Park of having a smaller, more cozy and intimate space to have a meeting with friends or to have just a sip of wine. So this is exactly what we're going to do with Agnes. We're going to offer coffees and morning drinks and snacks in the morning time, and then in the afternoon transform into a small lounge where our residents and visitors can enjoy themselves with a little bit of tapas and appetizers and glass of wine or a cocktail. So we really hope that you consider our application and approve it, and we will be happy to see you all in our new venture.
And you will work with the town clerk and ensure that the appropriate training has been accomplished, scheduled
Absolutely.
and accomplished.
Absolutely.
I don't have any other questions. Are there any opponents to this project who would like to state their case and present any evidence? We have one hand going up, so if I could get you to step to the side or wherever you choose to step to. So we'll have 3 minutes for the
Thank
comment.
you. Yeah, my name's John Guffey, and I live up here on Chapin Lane, which is certainly within the 3.5-mile radius, and I am concerned on a number of levels. There are currently 10 to 12 primary liquor outlets in this community. There are about 14 restaurants that serve alcohol. There are 4 craft breweries that make beer and serve it at a reasonable rate, and the need for one more must be examined and analyzed as to the cost-benefit, cost in more than just dollars. I think that's my concern on almost every issue that the town faces, whether it's water or power or care for the watershed. It's not how much money does it cost to make it right, it's keeping it right. Often by not messing around with it. People get their hands in it. I love the idea of a quiet place to go and meet people, read a magazine, have issues. No alcohol, thank you.
Thank you.
But I'm sorry, if I have time, there are a whole litany of things that need to be considered. These liquor stores and these outlets that we have currently numbering well over 20, approaching 30, it's a public health concern. It causes heavy drinking. It leads to violence. It leads to intimate partner violence. All of these outlets must be accountable. We can drink responsibly, but if we're encouraged to, pick up a drink and go home and fix dinner and play with your children, take them to the park for a hike, I don't feel like it. I just tapped a little wine or I drank a hard liquor drink at 4 o'clock. I don't get it. Communities often lack resources for proactive licensing, zoning restrictions, enforcement, mitigation. It's like,
30 seconds.
Are we doing it? Are we doing it? Do we need one more to bring our attention?
Thank you. Any other public commentary? The applicant will have an opportunity for a rebuttal if you have any comments you'd like to make after the public comments, or you can stand pat.
We just want to ensure. We just want to ensure that, and this is part of the training, the former tips training, that we are obligated to take and we're obligated to follow to make sure that none of these precedents happen, to make sure that people drink responsibly and people not only enjoy inside the premises, but they are safe outside the premises as well.
Thank you. Trustees, other comments or questions? Trustee Igo.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. Is this a new license? Was there previously a license in this location?
That is a brand new license.
Describe to me the location of it. I think it's in the Park Place Mall.
That
or
is
what was
correct.
formerly known.
We are taking over the former shop that used to sell little plates. Like straight.
Was there a bunny, bunny involved? Okay,
That is
so that was
correct,
on the
yes.
ground floor.
Maybe I can help you too. It's
Yep.
just below Antlers, which used to be Cholitos.
Yeah.
We're
If
on
I'm-
the first floor,
if I'm-
yes.
So it's on the
Okay,
second,
so it's
second or
not,
first floor?
so there was not a license there before. Is in, Clerk Williamson, you have to help me with this. My understanding of the liquor license, and this is a serious responsibility that we are taking on, issuing a new license. And I appreciate Mr. Guffey's points, because there are a lot of liquor outlets in Estes Park. Is there a compelling need by the community for an additional outlet for alcohol? And how would you show that need? Do you have letters of support or anything from the community that would show that we need that? Have you received anything along those lines? Is that reasonable to ask? Is that part of the state requirement?
You can ask that for sure. It is for the board to make that determination. The town clerk's office has not received any communication related to for or against this liquor license.
In the description, and we have two interesting applications this evening, so a lot of the questions here I think will be for both or any future new licenses. But there's a list of standards that are required that we investigate prior to issuing a new license especially. And can you read those again? Can you read those? Or you can throw them to me and I'll read them.
Shall
but-
consider the facts and evidence determined as a result of the investigation, as well as any other facts, the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood for the type of license for which application has been made, the desires of the adult inhabitants, the number, type, and availability of liquor outlets located in or near the neighborhood under consideration, and any other pertinent matters affecting qualifications of the applicant.
So I think that those are some pretty important requirements that you demonstrate in your application. And I didn't hear any of that you presented so far. And I'm usually the guy that asks a lot of questions, because I think that there's a responsibility we have to the community to ensure that there is a need for an additional alcohol outlet in our community of this nature, however it's made up. Are you gonna serve food?
Yes,
And is there a food license on the premises?
yes. Yes.
Okay, and it's a full restaurant, or what is the?
It is not a full restaurant. It is going to be mainly small appetizers and snacks.
Okay. So I would look for, in the process, I would think that it would be reasonable that we would expect you would demonstrate there's a need from the community for this type of a license. And I haven't seen that. So I'm asking you, how would you be able to illustrate or demonstrate that there's a need from the community for this?
I apologize for not presenting the paper or any other evidence tonight, but I am associated with Cafe de Fota in town and Elevations Eatery in town. And this is what we heard from a lot of our local customers, that especially in the summertime, there is not a place in the afternoon that is more quiet in town that people can go to and have a talk and have a conversation and enjoy very similar experience that they would at the restaurant.
I would ask you to speculate if I was asking, what do you think the other alcohol establishments in town would say? Or if we polled 100 people in town, do we need another alcohol establishment? So that's information that I'm interested in to be able to make a good decision about this. So I don't feel like I have enough information to say whether or not we could issue a new license. I'm one of 7 on this panel that represents the community.
Yeah, and if I can just chime in, this town board has not required
I know.
petitions.
know.
We've foregone those quite a few years ago, but we will be coming back forward to the board to make some decisions on how to handle these liquor license hearings in the future, but we currently have not required that, but we can moving forward.
And that's part of the reason I'm asking the question, Town Clerk, because with a new license, there is not a standard that this town has for issuing a new license. And we did a community survey recently that was about philosophies for how we host events for town events. And one of the number one issues was alcohol-focused events. So I think that alcohol outlets, those issues are on the minds of our community. And if we are not asking those questions, I think we might be underrepresenting perhaps what the community wonders. I'm asking the questions to stimulate the conversation, so I hope to hear.
If I can say something.
Sure.
So our goal is not to have a bar as a bar or anything like that. We want to have a cozy place so you can come and sip a glass of wine, or have a drink, but we are not going to be anything as a bar or a restaurant. It's going to be just few chairs and four cozy chairs to just sit and relax, to have an intimate time.
I believe you.
That's what
And
it's.
I don't want to tell you how to run the business.
No, I'm not.
My
I'm just
concern
trying to
is the
explain.
process of issuing a brand-new liquor license.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's been anything that would compel me to say, issue a new liquor license other than, this is the way we've always done it. And so I'm not comfortable with that, with the information that I have tonight. But that concludes my questions. I appreciate you.
As I recall the survey, I think it was, and you mentioned it quickly, alcohol-related events like the whiskey tasting, wine and chocolate, those types of things. That was where people were pressing on, we don't need more alcohol-related events. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
Yeah, I'm just, when we talk about these facts and evidence to determine whether we do one, I don't see needs anywhere. I don't say we're saying we need another establishment. I'm saying that it says that it's the desires of the adult inhabitants. And then it says the number, type, and availability of liquor outlets located in your neighborhood. I get it. But that doesn't say we're saying we need another outlet with the sentence. I'm not reading that. And maybe we should be reading that. I'm not saying yes or no. But I don't see that in this paragraph when we're okaying and okaying, it says that we're saying we need another one. We're saying there's desires of inhabitants to have this facility that may have alcohol.
So what supports the need?
Oh, go ahead.
I guess my question really is though, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't see anything that says need in here. So is where we're approving or not approving it, we don't have to prove that there's a need for it.
We don't.
Right, exactly. So I'm going on these evidence, the facts and evidence saying that it may be the desires of the adult inhabitants. We're not talking about a bar that's doing shots, number one, but we're also not asking if there's a need. So you say we have to have a need. We're not asking if there's a need, according to this paragraph, according to our categories. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have a better policy overall looking at new ones, but in this paragraph that we just read, it has nothing about whether we need it or not, as far as I read.
Trustee Youngland.
From what's been described here, as far as a cozy, intimate, quiet place to come together, to have a conversation and have a coffee or a drink. I presume you're going to also have non-alcoholic beverages as well. I'm not sure there's a lot of establishments in town quite like that. You either go to a bar at the bar atmosphere or a restaurant. So I'm intrigued with the concept that you're suggesting, and I could see that need. I mean, I go to a coffee shop and I like the cozy and meet a colleague for coffee, and I think it would be nice, other than like the winery. I don't drink beer, so I don't go to the brewery. Maybe that's kind of the atmosphere that they do as well. But I don't see a lot of those same type of commercial licenses in a situation that you're bringing forth to us. So I would be in favor of the resolution 3226, but I'll wait for more comment.
Trustee Brown?
So one question first, and you may not have said all this, but I'm curious if you have any expectation of what your hours will be at this location?
Yes, we're pretty much set on our hours. It's going to be around from 8 a.m. to around 9 p.m.
Okay, so not late night, and also you'll get some of the morning crowd.
That's
I'm more likely to come for coffee than the liquor, but it is an interesting concept. It's very small and likely to have very little overall impact. And I'm generally of a mind that it's your business, it's your lease, I presume you're going to have on this property. You're taking the risk that there is a demand for it. And I don't think we have any specific other restrictions that would say we should not approve this. So I'm going to vote to approve it.
Trustee Lancaster?
Yeah, I'm going to support this, but I think Trustee Igo makes some really good points. And if we think back to the bogeys, when that one came up, and I actually voted against that one.
4-3, that one was.
Yeah, and because in that case, we had a number of people in opposition to it, and they had no one in favor of it, so just like tonight. But I think if you read this, there's the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood for the type of license which has been made. I think if there's a reasonable requirement of the neighborhood, that sounds like need to me.
But it's not need.
But it sounds like need.
They should put the word need in there.
Well, I think it's a matter of semantics there. The reasonable requirements of the neighborhood. What are the requirements of the neighborhood that they need some type, that we have this type of been made? The desires of the adult inhabitants. We haven't heard anything about the desire of the adult inhabitants. The number and availability of liquor licenses located or near the neighborhood under consideration. We haven't talked about that. I think there are a lot of things here that I think in the future we need to talk about those and see, just like with the bogeys one, I think it's kind of come pro forma that we approve these things. And I think we need to have more discussion about it. The legislature has obviously determined these are the things we can consider. I don't think we've talked about the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood for this type of a license. We haven't talked about the desires of the adult inhabitants or the number of liquor outlets near there. We have in the past, and Daria, I'm sorry, this really isn't jumping out at you, because I know you'll run a great facility, and I'll probably go there, and I am going to support this. But I think in the future, we probably need to be maybe not so glib about how we do these things and have some discussions about what do these things mean and how we move on in the future.
Trustee Hazelton?
Yeah, I had written down, I wanted to talk about bogeys, because we went through this with bogeys, that if we'd like to see a limit or if we'd like to see different requirements, I think we need to discuss that as a board and not as an application comes before us. I don't think it's appropriate. The expectations of, we can talk about it, but I think to hold them to that standard that we haven't actually determined as a board yet, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, nor do I think it's fair. In my opinion, I think the market's going to determine if we need or if there's a requirement for another establishment. And that goes with any business that comes to town, no matter what kind of retail store you are, or coffee shop, or restaurant, or liquor establishment. And I understand liquor is a little bit different. We are the distributors of that license, but I think a lot of this is, we're pontificating on if there's a need or if it's going to be successful. I think we've seen sometimes where we've distributed liquor license and they haven't stayed in effect. And so there's some ebb and flow there. So I think if the board, this is the second time this has come up, the first time was bogeys, which was some time ago. I think that we as a board need to request to have a discussion about either a limit or different requirements. Jackie mentioned some of that will be coming before us. Great, let's discuss that at that time. I don't personally think it's fair to hold an applicant to that before we've had that discussion collectively as a board and made some decisions.
Trustee Youngland?
Yeah, before I make a motion to approve, just a couple things. It kind of to follow to what Trustee Hazelton said, is I think it will dictate, the community will dictate whether it's accepted, if it thrives, or if it doesn't, right? It fails. As far as addiction, candy and ice cream, food's addicting too. So, we have plenty of those in our community as well. So I would like to move to approve Resolution 32-26. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
No,
Do we have to close the hearing?
Oh, I bet we do. Have to close the hearing first.
we do actually have
Okay.
to close the hearing
And it
before I
looks
can
like
get a
there's
motion.
others, so I'll let
Trustee
it-
Eigel?
I have additional discussion and a question for the attorney. I want to be really clear, this is not, I respect the businesses that you already operate, and they're good, and they run well. And this is not a personal issue whatsoever. Trustee Hazelton really called it out well, that this is not about one applicant. But Trustee Lancaster did articulate that there are some standards in this guideline that we have before us that we are bound to follow. If I'm misinterpreting it, please stop me. But Attorney Kramer, can you weigh in on this, on what's the necessity that we follow this guideline that's before us on the application before us? And if we need to, we can hold off on this for a month and maybe clear this up. But this is not about one application. This is about the process of approving a new liquor license application, in my mind.
Sure, Trustee Eigel, like any other application, excuse me, this one's governed by statute, which is where that language comes from. So it's Colorado Revised Statutes 44.3.301.2A. Before granting any license, all licensing authorities shall consider the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood, the desires of the adult inhabitants, as evidenced by petitions, remonstrances, or otherwise, so we don't have to have petitions, and all other reasonable restrictions that are or may be placed upon the neighborhood by the local licensing authority. So this is something to be considered with every liquor license. We have done that, I would say, in passing, to put it generously, when we've considered these in the past. But I do believe that there is evidence in the record to support this liquor license on the basis of the testimony of the applicants. So there is enough, in my opinion, to support this or to oppose it. In my mind, it is a quasi-judicial decision of the board, and the board can go either way.
I appreciate you weighing in and answering that question. Thank you. And thank you for making a presentation to us tonight on this.
Mayor Pro Tem?
And I just want to reiterate, when I say need, we talk about, do we need another liquor outlet? Like, we need a place to go get alcohol? Maybe not, right? Do we need a place for adults to sit down and have conversation at night? Yeah, I think we do. Things close up. I think it's nice to have a place to go and sit down. You're coming from somebody who doesn't drink. So I'm talking from somebody who doesn't drink wine. But I do think that when adults come together and they're adults, they have a right to be able to have a drink of wine. Or, like I said, we're not talking about a slam rage or whatever. We're talking about a place for adults to come together and meet at night. And this town really doesn't have any, as far as I'm concerned, unless you're going to a restaurant. I just don't know of any place that adults can go at night and sit and talk and maybe have a drink of wine that's not a restaurant. And so if we really want to talk about, and when I say didn't say need, okay, well, we probably don't, we don't need another Italian restaurant or whatever. It's when I say these, I don't say it flippantly, because I understand that a liquor license is a lot different than a restaurant license. I understand that. But I also look at it as being, we're looking at the neighborhood under consideration and the pertinent matters with the qualification of the applicant. We already said it had good qualifications, right? And when we say we don't need another one, that in itself is not in here. I get what you're saying, requirements, but maybe we need a place for adults to sit down and have conversation and have that community spirit come back to this town without having to be in a bar, and without having to be in a restaurant where you don't talk to people two tables down. A little quieter, little place that you can actually sit and just talk. Maybe that's a smoking lounge. I don't smoke either. But, so I think that need is there. if you want to look at it that way.
It will be the judgment of the 7 individuals up here based on weighing those factors, although not precise and decisive factors, but we'll be weighing them. Town clerk, have there been any communications received in regard to the application?
No, as I stated earlier, we've not received any communication for or against this liquor license.
All right, all evidence presented will be accepted as part of the record. Board of Trustees, any other questions? And this public hearing, there is no longer public comment. The public hearing is closed, and now I would take a motion.
I'll move to approve resolution 32-26 for the new hotel and restaurant liquor license filed by Sky Peak Group LLC doing business as Estes Perk.
I'll second.
Trustee Youngland moved to approve 3226. Trustee Lancaster moved to seconded. Are there any other comments? We'll vote.
We are still missing one.
Missing one. Who hasn't pushed? Who's still got 3 lights flashing? Well, there we go. The motion passes 6-1. We'll look forward to seeing you when you open that piece up. We will now move on to, let's see, my script doesn't match the public hearing. I will go to the public hearing document. The next order of business is convening the Liquor Licensing Authority, which we've already convened, but this will be the public hearing on the application of Snow Dragon LLC DBA Mary Jane's for a new beer and wine liquor license located at 358 East Elkhorn Avenue, Estes Park, Colorado. Again, at this hearing, the Liquor Licensing Authority shall consider the facts and evidence determined as a result of its investigation. We've read that 3 or 4 times here tonight, so I will cut to the chase because we're well aware of what those requirements are. This public hearing is open. Town clerk, you can present the application.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another concurrent review for this liquor license. So again, it's been sent to the state ahead of this hearing tonight with the hopes that the liquor license, if approved by the board tonight, would be issued fairly quickly. Will just start off by telling you this location has been licensed in the past, but as a restaurant, and it hasn't held a liquor license at this location for some time, but it has previously held a liquor license at that location. This one is for a beer and wine license, and the applicant can tell you more about the wine bar that they are looking to open. In the meantime, I'll go over the specifics. The application was filed on November 15th, 2025. At the meeting on March 10th, you set the hearing for tonight. This one has a 3.5-mile radius for the neighborhood boundary. We have received all necessary fees and applications material. It is also filing as an LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, and it is also located in the seedy commercial downtown area, which does allow this type of business to be permitted. It was noticed on March 13th as well in the paper, as well as the property. The responsible vendor training I have marked as unscheduled, so if the applicant has updated that since I wrote this memo, they can let us know tonight. Otherwise, I would take any questions, or the applicants are here to give you more details of their establishment.
Does the applicant wish to make any statements? There's an applicant or two.
Hello, my name is Abby Sweeney of Snow Dragon LLC, doing business as Mary Jane's.
I'm Brett Doherty, one of her associates.
So the idea of the wine bar inside of Mary Jane's is to provide refreshment of beer, wine, soda, water to shoppers to enhance that experience, that retail experience, that shopping experience. We have opened the Riverside Room, or the back of Mary Jane's, as an event space with tables to sit at all winter long. People come and play mahjong or hang out with their friends or their family members while they're shopping, or their companions can enjoy that space. As well as what?
Events.
As well as hosting events there and hosting groups there. So the wine bar would provide refreshments for the people who are shopping, their companions. And this is a model that is common in boutiques in Europe. It's a model that has been adopted by a boutique in Black Hawk. And we believe it's going to elevate the shopping experience and the experience of our guests here in Estes Park.
This is just wine and beer, not what we would call hard liquor.
That's correct. And Brett and I are sommeliers, so this is a fusion of our passion for education about wines, international wines in particular, and offering that available. So speaking to guests about wine, hosting education events about wine, that's the marriage of our passion.
Yeah, I've also noticed in the last few years, like a lot of the coffee shops have moved toward the wine and beer experience, so the lesser of the alcohol stuff, and those seem to work in pretty good harmony with the nature of their business. Mary Jane's might be a little different, but maybe that's a positive by having a little uniqueness.
We also have a beautiful patio out back along the river that people really enjoy sitting out on, and we could see that experience enhanced with a beverage of their choice.
I'm going to ask if there are opponents who would like to speak against this application, and if there are, we will give them opportunity. I see none. Therefore, there is no need for a rebuttal. Trustees, questions? Trustee Youngland.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple, you said that you're looking at maybe hosting events. What kind and how large of capacity? I don't know the space that you're talking about.
The space is a maximum capacity of about 30 people. We more typically are seeing smaller gatherings of 12 to maybe 15. So, for example, hosting the chamber for a coffee in the morning, hosting a mahjong event where we're having about 12 people come weekly to enjoy that space. So smaller groups mostly, but up to 30.
And then you mentioned about the outside. How far, though, on your liquor license would that, I was trying to bring up the boundary map. Have you, I don't think they could go out into the public area and sit out there with your license, though.
The license restrictions are 10% of the square footage of the location. That's about 400 square feet. And that area has been designated in the application to include a portion of the inside of the Riverside Room and a portion of the outside patio, to the limits of the patio and not beyond. So people are not moving through the space with drinks in their hands. They're restricted to that location.
And
within.
that will be fenced, or?
It is fenced, fenced and gated.
Okay.
And there'll be signs posted, no alcohol allowed outside this area, etc.
And will you have, is the intention of having a staff member in that back area so you know that people aren't going outside that perimeter?
We will have two separate staff. One will be the retail staff that's assisting guests on the retail side, and we will have a wine bar staff who is tending to the serving and of the wine and beverages.
That will most likely be me.
Okay.
Us.
And are you serving any kind of food at all?
Yes.
Absolutely. We'll be serving individual size, prepackaged options for guests to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hazelton.
Yeah, I had questions about the patio too. I think the management of that, I appreciate your comments on that. And I walk by there every day and I'd be a little bit concerned about people, venturing beyond it's pretty easy to hop that. The gate's pretty easy to cruise through. There's seating at other establishments like Altitude right up there. I wouldn't want them to be, all of a sudden somebody's wandered up and decided they want to sit there or sit on the bench right on the river. So I think Cindy asked some of my questions, but I have a few. I just would encourage you to make sure that that's managed appropriately. I think we want to make sure good neighbors, especially for, Ed's with their liquor license right there. You can't get in or out of there. Like there's one access point. Your space is, I think, much more accessible. So you've answered some of that. I don't want to make you repeat all that, but I just want to encourage you to really think about how that might work and how that would be managed. I think one person serving who's also kind of managing or watching over that's, as somebody who's owned a liquor establishment before, that can be tough.
We will have two staff members. Two staff members at all times.
One was retail, handling
we'll
the
have
retail side.
several retail, so we'll have about, in the peak season, 5 retail associates in the establishment, 2 dedicated to the back, and then we'll have 2 staff members dedicated to the wine bar practice in the back as well.
Okay, sorry, I thought you had said 1 retail and 1 bar when you just made those comments.
Not 2 people, 2 completely separate labor structures. Okay. One will be completely trained in wine and the tips training, if you will, and the serving and managing of all of that. Okay. The retail staff will not be.
So 2 separate labor pools.
Okay.
But there'll be probably about 8 people on, and then very, very clear signage on the back patio area as to where the boundaries are.
Okay, yeah, well, I would love if everyone followed signs, even if they're clear, but we all know that's not a reality. Okay, so, and then on the training piece, Jackie had mentioned that do you have an update on, I know you both mentioned you mentioned you're both sommeliers, but do you have training plans in place for those people who would be serving for you, or?
I'm going to be going to the state and becoming an instructor for Northern Colorado.
Okay, thank you.
I should also mention that when I open for public comment, if there is a comment in favor of this application, that is perfectly permissible also. But I see none. Trustee Eigel.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a handful of questions. This caught my attention when we first got the packet because it's a clothing store with a liquor license. And when I asked 18 people, because it surprised me, and I asked 18 people, because I don't have a survey or the mechanism to do it big, what do you think about a liquor license at a clothing store? And 90% said, you're kidding. And so I think that there is some level of need for us to establish if this is appropriate for our community. So I'd ask you the same question that I asked the prior applicant, and how would you substantiate that there's a need for this type of a new license? Now, I understand it was a restaurant before, but that is maybe before I was, how long ago was that? It's not continuous, but you're reaching way back to say that was a restaurant before. Was that? What restaurant was that?
It was a sports bar.
Oh, that was not 10 years ago. That was, I made the signs. Yeah, it was a long time ago. So I'm gonna disqualify that as that was, because it's not a license that's ongoing. This is a very new concept for our community. And while I wonder if I think that it would be successful, if it was licensed and managed well, I think it would be successful. The question that I have, though, is again back to our process of issuing a new license. Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we generally classify licenses like a retail liquor store or a liquor licensed drugstore or a fermented malt beverage and beer and wine outlet? Are are there categories of licenses that we would say, where would this be? Is this a hybrid? Is this a retail with liquor? Can anyone doing retail add liquor?
Yes, actually.
If we
There is-
permit it.
I will give you a little more information on this particular location. Previous to this application, they had what's called a retail liquor license, where they can choose 24 days out of the year, up to 4 hours during that day to serve alcohol to their patrons. So they can have like maybe a sale or a Christmas event or whatnot. They are surrendering that license to get a
So
beer.
you currently have that license? Okay.
They currently, well,
That's
they've
important
surrendered that.
information.
They've
Okay.
surrendered that license. That is an administrative license that is approved in the clerk's office, just like special events are. But this is a unique license, but beer and wine licenses are common. I consider this a separate license to their business because they can only have alcohol in that 400 square feet. People can't roam the establishment. So they're going to have a retail license for their retail side, and then they're going to have a beer and wine for their wine bar. It is an enhancement to their business. I would not disagree with that, but I do see them as two separate businesses.
So I think that that's an important distinction. Is this a business model to be more successful in business, or is this meeting a community need? Because the statute asks for establishing if there's a community need, if the adults in the neighborhood would like to have that. So I think that that's an important distinction. And I saw you nod your head, yeah, this would be good for business.
It will definitely be good for business.
Sure.
We see so many customers who come in and they have their companions with them. And their companions are looking for a place to sit. They're thirsty, they're bored, they're waiting. Boy, would they love something to drink while they're waiting during that time. And so that was our feeling. So we asked over the last 6 months, as the people who were standing around, people who were coming in, what do you think of this idea? What would you like to have seen this here? And overwhelmingly, everybody was so excited that this is a possibility coming. And we did speak to the owner of Ed's and explained because she comes in quite frequently, and explained the concept, and she was also very excited for us and for that to be a part of what we're doing. Mary Jane's has been here for 20 years, and there's so many repeat customers, thank goodness, who are really friends of all of us who work there, who come to visit, come a couple times a week. And so, of course, we've asked all of them their opinion as well. And everyone who we could to ask, what do you think of this? And the response has been overwhelming.
I'm sure that it has. And Mary Jane's has got a stellar reputation in town. It's got a reputation for quality, for service. The people that work there are kind. So that is not an issue. And I think that this is, for me, this one is a precedent. If my question to town clerk was, can anyone in retail get a liquor license? And the answer was just yes. So that might be interesting. Is that the way we want the community? Is that how we want the community to be? I can walk downtown, I can tell you, well, they probably have a liquor license, but I would never guess a clothing store would have a liquor license. So
it's a newer concept here in the
is.
States, but something definitely that is.
There's one other
Sure.
part of that when you asked, is there a need? We will be the only education venue. We'll be teaching wine. It's a 2-hour experience for the guest.
Teaching what?
Wine education. Where it comes from, the chemistry, all of it. The law, geography, geology of different wine producing countries. It will be something in addition to just coming somewhere and drinking.
Well, what I just heard was, if I get bored while my date is shopping, I can go
That's
have
another
some
side
wine.
to it. That's the European model that Abby was alluding to, that Germany does it, Iceland does it, Austria does it, some places in Italy do it. It is to not just benefit the guest, but also the venue that's providing it.
And we're coming from a food and beverage background. So we bring that experience with handling liquor licenses, liquor rules, you know,
Not
the
new
laws.
Not new to the game.
Well,
Yeah,
and that, so that was one of my questions. Your experience is clear in your application, that you have experience, and I didn't read anything about you, but yours was in the application. So I realize that you bring that to this, and I would imagine if you got in trouble, you wouldn't have the long line of experience. Now, you have an affiliation, do you still have an affiliation in town with another business? That, is there any plan to integrate or to grow or to, I just wonder what the future plans are for this liquor license in this location, currently 400 square feet with a fence, and him saying, you may not leave the gated area, I mean, that should be no problem. What's the rest of the story?
We do have an affiliation, and that is with Outlaws and Legends Steakhouse. That was open this summer, but that is through a separate LLC and a different business structure. So that is not, although it is part of our businesses, it is not associated at all with Mary Jane's. So the dream or the goal of this business is to expand it into a wine education destination. Brett has over 40 years experience in the food and beverage industry, as well as an advanced level 3 sommelier through the Guild. So he's a wealth of information, and it's our passion to talk about wine. So even if you're waiting while your companion is shopping, we could be chatting just as we're doing a tasting or a sampling of wine. And I think that would bring a great advantage, and it's something that's not quite here yet in Estes. We beta tested this education program at a different location, and it was the only comments we received after the beta testing of, we called it a wine tour, a world wine tour, because we have wines from around the world that we would talk about and the regions they come from, etc. The only comment we received is, you're not charging enough. This is fantastic. So we have beta testing that this kind of education program is desirable and is a lot of fun, and people really enjoyed it. And we have a long list of people who signed up for that program. It did not launch, so this is where we want to bring it, is to this location.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm and your knowledge of the subject. I wish that you had something on paper, or paper changes everything, right? That's evidence that we have that you've talked with people and established a need. I would reinforce what Trustee Hazelton said about being diligent about the parameters that have been set by this license, if it is approved, because I think that you will be an example, good or bad, depending on how this goes. And I think there's a lot of responsibility on you if this license is granted. Thank you for your information and follow-up answers.
We feel very responsible to uphold that boundary. It's a matter of health and safety, which is with the river right there and everything. We are very conscious about monitoring age limits, monitoring consumption limits, monitoring boundaries. We've been in this business a long time and know how absolutely critical that is to building the trust of the community, but most importantly, the safety of the guest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
You know, this topic obviously is coming up a lot and coming up more and more. The one thing I can completely agree with you is that I think this board has to at some point sit down and figure out what that word need is and what the requirements really means, because everybody has a different thought process. Like I said, I didn't think it was need. He said it was need, all power. But I do think it's really a necessary time for us, for the board, to sit down and talk about what these things mean to them and what it means as a board. Nothing to do with this. It's difficult when we have two back-to-back and they're the same questions. And there were some questions months ago and we didn't come up with answers then. So I think it's about time that we as a board come up with an answer to what we feel is this. It used to be, honestly, check mark. Almost everybody got one as long as they did their tips training. Da, da, da. And I understand not just going through and marking yes, yes, yes. But I don't think that we as a board have done our job to sit down and define that for ourselves. So I think that's necessary, and I think it's necessary soon.
Well, and I think we do have a study session somewhere out there, and that will be a discussion about how these are handled, or even if some of these come to the board. I've said it before, and I've said it again, there are some things that I do think if you make a certain decision, like rescinding a legal quasi-judicial decision, you've got a problem with precedent there, a real problem. But other than that, for these kind of items, we determine precedent or not. The next application that comes, we don't have to approve, because if this one gets approved, we don't have to approve the next 1, 2, and 3. We decide what's precedent and what's not precedent. And people can call it unfair, but we're the 7, or the new board will be the 7, who weighs those various criteria and gets a feel of the owners and their application and their history. And enough said. Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, I made my comments before about the general big picture, but I'm intrigued with this idea. I think it's a fresh concept for Estes Park, and I applaud your creativity of doing this. I can see I remember when it was a sports bar. Actually, it was one of my favorite places in town. In fact, our previous finance director, Mr. McFarland, managed it. Managed that restaurant before he came to the town, where they closed it. And I think that's an underused part of town. That part of the Riverwalk, I love that down there. In the trees, it's shady, it's nice and cool in the wintertime, or the summertime, and I wish it was cool in the wintertime, it's not. But it's the sound of the river, and I think if it's fenced, we have other places, we have breweries that have opened areas and people don't walk away much. So I'm not concerned about that. So I like the concept, I like the idea. Are you gonna have beer and wine, or just wine?
Well, beer, wine, sodas, water.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Coffee.
this is just personal, I don't like wine.
Not yet.
I'm a beer guy. And,
But this won't influence his vote.
No, well, now they're gonna have beer, yeah.
Sounds like a challenge.
Which is interesting, because my son-in-law was a wine distributor, now he's the wine buyer for, manager for Dominique's in Fort Collins, so big wine family, worked in wineries in New Zealand, and I don't drink wine, so that's always a problem at things, but I think it's gonna be wonderful, and I think it's a great concept to give it a try. It's something unique, that's what we wanna have in Estes Park, something we can offer that other places don't have, and that creativity is great, so, yeah, I'll be supporting it, and then the bigger picture, we do need to have that discussion about the bigger picture of liquor licenses, but I applaud your creativity.
Thank you.
Town clerk, have any communications been received in regard to the application?
Nothing for or against this liquor license has been received.
Thank you. All evidence presented will be accepted as part of the record. This public hearing is closed. I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve Resolution 33-26, the new beer and wine liquor license filed by Snow Dragon LLC, doing business at Mary Jane's.
I will second that motion.
Any last comments? We can vote. Go forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have 4 items left. It's so approaching 9. We'll aim for efficiency. Resolution, these are action items. Resolution 3426, Freeland Heights Subdivision Final Plat, Stanley Lot 2A LLC, Brad O'Neill, owner applicant. And we have Senior Planner Hornbeck to give us the story.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. The proposed subdivision is governed by the Stanley Historic District Master Plan. The master plan standards will apply to this application, as does the process for subdivisions outlined in the development code. This means the master plan provides the review criteria for tonight's decision.
But we will take your statements. At this hearing, we'll consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, applicant, public comment, written comments. Has any trustee had any ex parte communications concerning this application, which are not part of the board packet? I see none. Any member of the board can ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, which may be responded to at that time. The public hearing's open. Your statements are good within the bounds of the public hearing. I think we were all listening carefully.
Town Board is the decision maker on the subdivision, and the Stanley Technical Review Committee has authority to approve new development in the district, meaning all improvements associated with the subdivision, such as buildings, site work, and landscaping. The ARC has reviewed and approved, the Architectural Review Committee has reviewed and approved model home plans for the proposed subdivision, and the TRC approved the preliminary package in November of 2025 and the final package in March of this year. Lot 2 of the Stanley Historic District was platted in 2004 as the Overlook condominiums. It included a variety of multifamily and duplex units, which have since been built, as well as 6 single-family building envelopes. In 2020, Lot 2 was subdivided into lots 2A and 2B. The subject lot, 2A, contains those unbuilt single-family envelopes, and Lot 2B contains the already constructed buildings. In 2024, there was an amendment to the plat which changed those single-family envelopes to duplex envelopes, meaning a maximum of 12 units could potentially be built. Context of the area includes single-family homes to the northeast, Black Canyon Inn to the north, the aforementioned development on Lot 2B to the south, and a formidable rock formation partially on the site as well as to the site to the west. Slopes average 15 to 30% on most of the site. It is located outside mapped flood and geologic hazard areas. It is within a wildfire hazard area. Depending on timing of building permits, the either development code or the pending wildfire resiliency code will apply. The site is also located within an important wildlife habitat, is a high-use area for deer. However, no fencing is proposed. The applicants request approval of a final subdivision plat, which would eliminate the 6 existing building envelopes and create 10 single-family lots. Displayed here is the concept plan as it most clearly depicts the proposal. Lots would range in size from approximately 7,000 to 24,000 square feet. Access is provided via Overlook Court, which connects through the Stanley campus to Steamer Parkway. There are 2 private shared driveways proposed connecting to Overlook Court and a third driveway serving just Lot 3. Those shared driveways would be maintained by the lot owners and subject to a shared maintenance agreement. The northern driveway goes on to connect to Black Canyon Inn as emergency-only access. Subdivision plat is shown here. Staff requests that this plat before you now be entered into the record as the subject of tonight's decision, as it is updated from what was in the packet. There are no substantive changes to the packet. Those changes include some modifications to the notes and provision of signature blocks, as well as some minor tweaks to the building envelopes on lots 2 and 6 that remain generally in the same location. Grading and drainage plan also provided for reference will be subject to final administrative review and approval by staff. Same goes for the utility plan as well as the landscape plan. Advantages of this proposal. It does conform with relevant standards, which I'll summarize here. All lots meet the minimum size and other standards contained in the master plan. Minimum open space of 30% is required by the master plan. Each lot will contain a building envelope limiting developable area to ensure minimum 30% open space is met. The master plan seeks to minimize disturbances to existing grades and topography. This site, given its topography, does necessitate some disruption. However, it does appear minimized to the maximum extent feasible. The master plan speaks to preservation of significant vegetation. Approximately 20 significant trees would be removed with this new construction, and approximately 25 new trees are proposed. The plan also requires consideration of preservation of significant views. That is primarily focused on views to the Stanley Hotel complex. However, it does also speak to other views. In this case, the single-family homes to the north would have some impacts to their views with this construction, but not to an unexpected extent, given that development is permitted on this lot. Driveways will require modest cut and fill and appear generally within a few feet of existing grades. Landscaping, the master plan seeks to soften off-site views with native vegetation, which is met in this application. Master plan requires sites to facilitate pedestrian circulation. The sidewalk currently exists along Overlook Court, terminating at the cul-de-sac. Given the low volume of traffic, this proposal does not warrant sidewalks on the shared driveways. Off-site utilities and services, the relevant service providers have reviewed the application and expressed no objections. And lastly, density. There's a rather complicated formula in the master plan for determining allowed number of units. The plan envisioned 3 potential development scenarios: all residential, which has a cap of 46 units, all accommodations with a cap of 92 units, or a mixed development with both residential and accommodations. That is what applies in this case, as there are existing vacation home licenses, which the development code considers an accommodation use. The applicant has provided these calculations and staff has confirmed these, they remain under the maximums allowed. And there's also a cap on square footage accommodation. There remains approximately 15,000 square feet for accommodation uses. Current square footage can change year to year as vacation home licenses may be surrendered or new ones issued. As such, the square footage cap will be enforced through the vacation home licensing process. No disadvantages have been identified. Staff recommends town board approve the final plat application. A neighborhood meeting was held by the applicant with a summary of that meeting enclosed with the packet materials. No formal public comments have been received, and notice was provided in accordance with code requirements. Sample motions provided for your reference. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions, and I believe the applicant has a presentation as well.
I will first ask if there is public comment, pro or con, and it looks like we have one, so we will allow public comment, 3 minutes, so you can come to the microphone.
Can I get my presentation first?
Oh, are you part of the applicant?
I am the applicant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm Brad O'Neill, the development partner in the venture with Don Darling, with Darling Enterprise, who's my contractor partner. It's been a long 14 months since we first held our pre-application meeting with the town in January of last year. And since then, we've had 4 public hearings, and I've been very pleased with the unanimous support all along the way, from planning staff to all the 4 members of the boards that we have presented to. And we're pleased to announce that we have our first lot sale scheduled to close April 10th. So I think it's being very well received in the market. Since we last met and presented to the board 6 weeks ago, where you approved the preliminary plat, there's been really 2 meaningful events since then. One is we had the TRC meeting approving our final plat on March 11th, and that was unanimous. Very pleased with that. So that was the good news. The bad news is, and I think you're aware of the lawsuit from the Overlook HOA, since the HOA's attorney was not shy about including you in all the email correspondence to me on the lawsuit. But the town has been added as a defendant in the lawsuit as of 8 days ago. So I want to take the opportunity to talk about, let's see, Paul, how do I get it so it just, it fills up height-wise? Do not do that.
I'm not sure.
See, page full screen. Yeah. Okay. So, can you? How do I do that?
Something weird going on where I think there's a presentation screen maybe. What did you do to present?
That's full screen.
Was it here?
View, and then page just, let's see. Page just full screen down, there you go. Okay. So there are 2 primary allegations in the Overlook HOA lawsuit, okay? And I want to just briefly go into each one and talk about what could be a compelling argument and the but for each of these. The first allegation is that the HOA is saying that density is limited to 46 units, and they're all residential. So that means that our proposed 10-lot subdivision exceeds the density limit by 4 lots. So that's the first allegation. The second allegation is that we have a model home that's under construction, and that model home did not comply with town approval processes and development standards, okay? So those are the 2 allegations. Now, the first allegation that density is limited to 46 units would be compelling if this were the correct page in the master plan. This is page 33 of the development standards for the Overlook parcel, and the bottom line says, development of this parcel may consist of either residential or accommodations development and not a combination of both. Okay, so it's important to note that that date of this document was January 11th. Now, if you go to the next page, you'll see residential is limited to 46 dwelling units. So if you take those 2 combinations, those 2 pages, and consider that a mixed development is not permitted, And if you use the definition of residential as a residential unit versus commercial versus residential versus accommodations, you would agree that we're limited to 46. But there's a but for. The but for is that page dated January 11th was an earlier draft. And that was presented to the TRC that we held 3 weeks ago. The HOA presented that to the TRC as part of their claim that we're only limited at 46. The problem is that was an outdated draft. The draft that was adopted in February of 1994 included an updated page which says, or a combination of both. So their argument kind of falls apart because they're using an old draft. And if you go to the third page of the development standards, it clearly says the total number of mixed residential accommodation units shall not exceed 92 units, okay? So again, it would be a compelling argument, except they used the wrong draft as part of their argument. The second primary allegation is that our model home is being constructed not following the town procedures. And again, it would be a compelling argument if one were to consider that we don't have our subdivision approved. So how could we build a model home on one of the lots? And we didn't go through all of the master plan standards and procedures to get the model home approved because that's the model home under construction. We're about 2 months away from completion. The but for on this argument is we're building it within one of the existing building envelopes that was approved in 2003, platted in 2004. And the 2003 approval basically consisted of the language that says for any building permit application for single family units, all you have to do is apply for the Architectural Review Committee. We did that. We got Architectural Review Committee approval in July. And so we applied for the building permit. So we used the existing approvals from 2003, which don't have an expiration date. So we're fully within the approval guidelines at that time. And that building envelope fully respects all setback and other requirements of the development standards within the master plan. So now how that relates to, and actually as an example, here's a copy of our site plan from our building permit set that shows our model home fully within building envelope D. Now how that relates to the overall plan, once we get the approval for the subdivision plat and record it, then we can vacate those 6 envelopes and the red line goes away. And so the model home fits within the newly created building envelopes within lot 7. So that's the conclusion of my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Hold the questions and let's go ahead and allow public comment.
Okay, I guess one last thing. My attorney tells me that it's generally practice for town boards in the face of litigation not to stop town business. Because if they did, it would open the litigation floodgates to stop all town business. Thank you.
Mr. Mayo.
Thank you very much. Gerald Mayo, 265 Lookout Street, Estes Park. And first of all, I'd like to thank Trustee Youngland for her service. And we have a little bit for different view from here than you guys do. She's the only one that's had a smile on all night long. Thank you again. I represent 40 homeowners adjacent to the project as president of that board. That's 40 homeowners. There is a pending lawsuit, which Mr. O'Neill mentioned, against the development, which you're aware of. I'm requesting, along with the 40 other individual homeowners, that the final plat decision be tabled until the pending litigation is resolved. The Stanley Historic District is an overlay of the town code. Neither the requirements of the Stanley Historic District or the town code have been followed, as Mr. O'Neill claims. The previous developer had to have a development agreement with the town. This step seems to be skipped. Was there ever a density analysis completed? Previous developer had to complete this. I don't believe there has been. I don't believe, to the best of my knowledge, and any information provided by the town, there has been a construction set submitted by the developer to the town. The construction set has to be accompanied by a cost analysis of the entire project and a letter of credit from a financial institution. There is currently no approved drainage report for the property. This is critical based on 2 previous drainage lawsuits. Current proposed drainage quotes and uses the previous drainage plan done by Cornerstone Engineering, which resulted in the Stanley LLC, which was John Cullen, being in 2 settlements after 2 separate 2-year lawsuits between the Stanley LLC and the Overlook HOA, which is required to pay $448,000. Repairs to that drainage were never completed. Town code requires setbacks for single-family subdivisions. This has not been followed, as the current structure is 64 inches from the road. Based on the pending lawsuit and lack of the developer to provide above information, the 40 homeowners adjacent to the project are requesting that you table the final plat approval until after the developer has complied with the town requirements and the result of the pending lawsuit have been resolved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You may now give rebuttal on any of the points raised. Any further comments? Trustees, questions, comments? Oh, is there anyone else with a public comment? All right, trustees. Questions, comments? Trustee Brown.
So I have a question for Paul on this. So if I understand this right, I know this convoluted calculation of accommodation, and if these were all residential units, it would exceed the limit. And the fact that it's residential and accommodation is what in the calculation allows this to meet the requirements of the master plan. Is that right?
If all units in...
If all 10 of these units were residential, we would have, would we exceed the, aren't any accommodation units on the 2B, right?
There are 32 licensed vacation homes.
Oh,
on
there
2B.
are, okay. So we're not testing on the 46 number alone because there's already accommodation units in the whole thing.
That's correct. Any combination of residential and accommodations on this proposal would comply with those maximums.
I did see, though, in one of the prior slides that one of the things in the master plan says that the north end will be all residential units. So I'm not sure what that means on this plat here. It's certainly the lots to the right. Maybe it's 1 or 2 of the ones to the left. Where are the accommodation units going to be here? And where are the residential?
I'd defer to the applicant to describe that for you.
And how does that relate to that? All the residential will be on the north end. That's why I'm asking that question. Because it seems like they're either residential or they're accommodation.
Would you like to answer first on
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, that provision is a little confusing. Actually, if you could look at page 3, the development standards, I don't know if you have that in front of you for Overlook, but there's an allowance for both accommodation and residential units on the north end with the restriction of resident or accommodation units can't be greater than 120 feet in length. And that was to prevent a long hotel type unit up there with large massing to block views. But there is an allowance for both accommodation and residential units on the north end. And there, if you look at the overall existing units, there are probably 5 or 6 of the duplex units on the north end, and most of those are
existing units too.
the existing units. So again, the master plan was describing the development standards for all of Lot 2 before it was subdivided, right, into 2A and 2B. I'm 2A and Carol's 2B. So we both have to comply with that. So if you take a look at the existing units along the north end, there's probably 3 or 4 that are accommodations and 1 or 2 that are residential. For this, we've got basically 4 units along the north end, lots 6, 7, 8, 9, or sorry, 7, 8, 9, 10, and one of those will be identified as an accommodation unit. We anticipate 5 accommodation units out of the 10, and those are identified by number in note, I think 4. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 7 as accommodation units. So I think we comply with that one standard.
Okay. Back to Paul, please. So, does staff agree that it complies with the master plan with respect to that question of the north end being residential? That one statement in the, yes.
Yes, I will read what's in the staff report. So this provision is interpreted to mean that if accommodations are developed at the north edge of the parcel, then any and all accommodations buildings developed on the parcel shall comply with the stated dimensional restriction, maximum length of 120 feet. This provision ensures building massing does not get too large and thus become incompatible with surrounding residential uses. Homes proposed within this subdivision comply with this standard.
Okay, so it's an interpretation of the master plan and how these provisions interact, basically.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Agel.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. One is for our attorney and the other is for Paul. So Mr. Mayo has asserted that this plan does not comply with standards of the Stanley Historic District. So I heard you just affirm to Trustee Brown that it does after your review of it.
Correct. We view it as in conformance with the master plan.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Mayo to articulate specific issues that are not in compliance? Are you able to articulate those now? I know I'm surprising you, but if you made an assertion that it does not comply with some things.
So the master plan was signed by Bernie Daniels and Frank Normale. And I'm sure some of you know him, and I'm sure some of you never heard of him, but they were around for a while. When this was signed, there was not a definition in the master plan. However, the accommodations was meant to be a hotel or hotel units. That's why the 120 feet is in the master plan. And I think at the last meeting, town attorney, pro tem or whatever, great, Mr. White, said that the first subdivision or the first development would preclude what should be going up there, which would allow 6 additional units to be built. The 6 places that are there was a result of a $200,000 lawsuit by some of the north neighbors about views. And one of the major things in the Stanley Historic District is to protect the views of the neighbors of the north. And I think, Frank, you're up there in that neighborhood. So we lost that, and that's why those 6 building envelopes are where they are. Does that explain everything?
A little bit. a little bit, but I'm gonna go to the attorney now. That's all I have to ask you about. Then I would ask the attorney for a little bit of guidance on this, in that we have a plaintiff before us who, Mr. O'Neill has indicated that we are a defendant in a lawsuit. So I think that it would be reasonable to ask your guidance either today, or if we need to privately discuss this. I'm looking for your direction on this, Attorney Kramer.
Trustee Igo, we can always have an executive session. The board does not need to resolve the lawsuit today. The lawsuit will take time to resolve. As with any development application, the board's task today is to determine whether it complies with the review criteria. Those have been laid out in the staff report. So ordinarily, with the review criteria for a subdivision, it's whether they meet all of the standards of the development code. In this situation, staff's interpreted that it's really about whether it meets all the standards of the master plan, because the master plan supersedes the development code within the Stanley Historic District. So all of those relevant standards have been presented as part of the staff report. I believe Paul presented on 10 of them predominantly. One of them was that density question. I believe that was number 9. So as with many things that come before the board, staff makes interpretations. You've heard some of those interpretations from our planning staff tonight, and those are in front of you to determine, does this meet the standards of the master plan? And as you've heard staff say, we interpret vacation homes to be accommodations uses, and you've heard an opponent say that that's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to be hotels. So there's evidence before you to support the application, and there's evidence before you not to support the application, but to deny it. And we've talked about this previously tonight. Oftentimes with quasi-judicial decisions, there's evidence in both directions, and the board acts as quasi-judges in making a decision of whether you all think that the code, or in this case, the master plan, has been met. So I don't think beyond that, there's much difference between this application and other applications that come to the board for development or subdivision or any other quasi-judicial matter. And I wouldn't want the board to be thrown off by the fact that there's a lawsuit pending in this matter. That doesn't change the fact that you need to make a decision based on the standards. And in fact, there are elements of the development code that say that you need to make that within a certain time frame. So continuation of hearings, and that's in section 3.1D, 3.1H of the development code. A public hearing may be continued to a later date. However, no public hearing on a subdivision shall be continued for more than 40 days without the written consent of the applicant. And there are other portions of the development code that say that if the town board does not make a decision on a subdivision application within a certain deadline, that it's automatically deemed approved. So we don't ever want that to happen. We want it to be done by decision of the town board. So while there is wiggle room for the board to continue an item to get more information, I would not suggest that the board continue an item, especially a quasi-judicial one, indefinitely to await the conclusion of a lawsuit that may be years down the road.
Sure, not my suggestion, but there were 2 material facts that came up tonight that I think that we need to address, and your guidance has been very helpful. There's an additional document, an attachment in our packet, attachment 11, and it's a document dated 2003, and I wonder how it pertains to this conversation, Paul, and perhaps you can address that. It's a reservation and guest services agreement, and how is that pertinent to what we're talking about tonight?
That was included, given the question of, are the vacation homes accommodation uses, are they residential? What has been established for determining density? So that was included as a reference that the initial approval did contemplate accommodations uses, and to our knowledge, there have been accommodation uses since that approval.
And Trustee Eigel, just to build on that, I would say that this is in the packet as evidence that a number of these units from the beginning or from some time ago were considered as essentially accommodations units, even though they are built similar to a single-family structure. So that's evidence for the board to take into consideration in coming to a conclusion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Trustee Brown.
Following another follow-up question. So the applicant is designating 5 of these residential, 5 of them accommodation, because they're seeking vacation rental licenses for the 5 accommodation ones, which are allowed because it's not within our residential cap because of the zoning for this property, correct?
That's correct.
Are they obligated to continue them as accommodation units, or can they be converted to residential units? I gather with that odd combined calculation, they really could be either and still meet the density issue, right?
Correct.
So they're not necessarily always going to be accommodation units. They could be residential. They could convert them at any time. They just currently intend for them to be accommodation.
That's correct.
Yeah, we set it up so that we want to give our vacation homeowners that option, that have the opportunity to do a license, and there's nothing in the development standard limits that would limit residential. They are for accommodations. So all 5 of those could go back to residential. Now what that does is that it reduces the square footage for accommodations. There's an interesting formula.
That's where it factors in.
It factors in, yeah, but all of them can be converted. And I would like to say 2 things with respect to the recent discussion on the 6 lots being as a result of a lawsuit. Gerald approached the 2 neighbors that are actually most affected by this development. Dr. Kahn and Mr. Dave Markheim are directly to the north of us. And one of those units, Dr. Kahn's units, was the former owner sued, and that's the one of the lawsuits he referred to. They both declined to join the lawsuit. They're the most at risk for their views. I'm working with both of them. If I were to develop duplex units, is my right now within building envelope F, it would completely block their view. I've oriented the homes to try to respect their views, develop view corridors, and they're both happy with what I've done with that. So that's the comment about the 6 envelopes being as a result of a lawsuit. The second one on density, probably the most expert of all on this master plan is John Cullen. We bought this property from John. John had increased the density on this parcel in 2022 with a TRC meeting. He converted the 6 single-family lots to duplex lots, therefore doubling density from 6 to 12. And that wasn't memorialized until December of 23, when an addendum was recorded, and I believe town attorney Kramer was involved to verify that was all legitimate. It was recorded, and that gave John the comfort to sell the property to me with entitlements of 12 units. So we're reducing 12 to 10 in terms of density. Now, at that 2022 TRC meeting, during public comments, there was only one public comment. And at that presentation, the 12 units increased overall overlook density to 52. So we're not talking about 46, we're not talking about 50, which I'm proposing for my development. It was 52, and the only one public comment came from Gerald, who said, I represent the overlook HOA, and we fully support John's proposal to increase the overall density to 52. So I don't know what changed from then to now. Thank you.
I do have, if you want to just stay up here, I have a question for you. So with this calculation of residents versus accommodations and how that may change based on what people want, who is going to be managing that to make sure that proportion stays as it's supposed to?
That's a good question, and I asked that same question of Paul, and the short-term rental licensing process starts with the application, and then it goes to planning. Planning then looks at every application, and Paul can articulate better the process, but planning will have basically the guidelines in front of them for both neighborhood, for overlook, to say for any given year for the applications, are we in compliance? So they can confirm or deny an application based on the limits that are established.
Okay. So
Did I
Paul,
get that
if you
right,
want to, yeah. So I didn't realize that our department would be so involved with knowing who's doing accommodations and who's not. And how does that, I guess I don't want somebody just doing accommodations and not following procedure and licensing and requirements that's set forth. So does the planning department really have the ability to be monitoring that? Or just is it on everybody's, I guess, honor system?
Well, the town clerk has, I think, the ability to monitor illegal, unauthorized, unlicensed vacation home rentals townwide.
So they do it even over for that Stanley parcel as well?
I believe so.
Okay.
And the license process, as Mr. O'Neill, I think correctly stated, so those come into the clerk, they're routed to planning. We would verify compliance with the master plan at that time.
Okay, I didn't know, since it was the Stanley, if they had their own different section of watchers. So I didn't know it was town clerk. It was, okay. So they followed the same guidelines as everybody else. Okay, thanks.
Trustee Hazel.
Just a quick comment, Mayor. I don't have a question, but I just want to make sure if we do continue further discussion, I'd like to suggest and encourage the board that we keep it on the subdivision plat and the compliance with the master plan standards and not related to the lawsuit or he said, she said in past meetings. I just want to encourage the board to stay focused on the subject that we have at hand, especially per Attorney Kramer's advice. So that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Lancaster, keep it going.
Yeah. No, I just want to clarify something, and Mr. Mayo said it. I know he definitely didn't imply anything here, but just for the board's information, I do live in the neighborhood, but my house is on the far end of Prospector Lane, which is the one there. This area is not visible at all from my home. I can't see in it. It has no impact on me. I don't think there's any kind of a conflict of interest. Doesn't affect my property value. But I did want to disclose that since it was kind of hanging out there that for the record that I'm somewhat in the neighborhood, but I can't see this. Even if I climbed on my roof and tried, I couldn't see any of this.
Careful up there. Town clerk staff, have there been any communications received in regard to the application which are not in the board packet?
No, no comment has been received.
All reports, statements, exhibits, written communications presented will be accepted as part of the record. This public hearing is closed. I'll take a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 34-26.
I'll second the motion.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve this item, 3426. Trustee Youngland seconded. Further commentary? We shall vote. It passes unanimously. We'll move on to action item 2, request to rename Monteverde Park de Monteverde. Town Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. As we discussed in your last meeting, this is a request to rename the town-owned space northeast of the traffic circle at Moraine Craig's West Riverside to Monteverde Park. Parque Monteverde. This property was acquired through a quitclaim deed from CDOT associated with the Downtown Estes Loop project. The Sister Cities group has requested that this be renamed officially. Staff deemed the application complete. We did discuss the fact that this space does not have a formal name. The original naming process was not followed because of the specificity in that policy. It states when the town signs an intent to acquire a piece of property or develop it as a park, that's when the naming process starts. That did not happen in this case. Doesn't fit cleanly within either the renaming or the naming provisions. At your last meeting, the town board did vote to advance this for consideration as an action item at a town board meeting per your policy. That request is in front of you. The proposed name complies with our naming criteria, and it does contribute to the ongoing development of the relationship between the town, Estes Park Sister Cities Association, and the City of Monteverde, Costa Rica. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I will say that the president of the Estes Park Sister Cities Association, Dave Thomas, is here as well if you have questions for that group.
I'll ask first if there's any public comment, pro or con, for this particular item. I don't see movement. Therefore, trustees, questions or comments?
I have a question. I mean, we have it down as Monteverde Park or Parque Monteverde. I kind of go, which one is it going to be? I mean, is it in Spanish or is it English? I guess if I was in Monteverde and saw a park that was named after Estes Park, I would expect it to be in Spanish. That's what I'd expect it to be. And so I would expect ours to be in English, or one or the other. I kind of go, are we going to have a sign there? The sign going to, I kind of feel like it should be in English, just like if I went there, I'd expect it to be in Spanish, but no hill I'm dying on, but I just wanted to find out that question.
So the proposal as it stands now is to have it the way it's presented in your document, English and then Spanish in the parentheses. And so associated with this request, we don't have a specific signage plan beyond the signs in the peace poll that the board has already discussed. The most clear identifying element would be the Google Maps submittal, and they're very challenging to assign a name to Google Maps. But to your point, Mayor Pro Tem Sinak, we would, per the renaming request now, if it's approved, it would be the English name with the Spanish name in parentheses.
Okay, I guess my comment would be, I like the idea of naming it Monteverde Park, but I would want it in English. Just like if I was there, I'd want it in Spanish.
So if we go that way and we do decide to rename it, I would agree with Trustee Sinak, but I'm going to fall back to my position earlier that this is not a renaming. This is a piece of land that has never been named before, so the gray area is pretty dark. At the risk of jeopardizing my relationship with every person in Monteverde, I've already spoken of support for the name, but I think the process of renaming something that doesn't have a name is an error. And I will vote against this because I think we've got to get our processes focused. And I think this falls out. It's a gray area that we can decide. But then when it works for us, we say, no, we have to follow the rules. So I'm going to stand on this principle and not support this.
If there are no other comments, I would take a motion.
I just, maybe I was wondering if the president would like to come up and speak to having the English and the Spanish together. I think may be helpful to have a little explanation on that before we vote.
My name is David Thomas. I'm at 1560 Axminster Lane. The Sister Cities Association is very grateful for your consideration of this proposal. We also want to thank our town board liaison for the past 2 years, Trustee Youngland, for the service that she gave to our board. in terms of a renaming, I've been in town a few years, and the only name I ever heard that space called was Youngland Park. So I hope that addresses your question, Mark. The fact is, we're working right now with town staff to produce an interpretive sign, the kind of sign that you would find in the national park, the kind of sign that you see around Lake Estes. You've all seen these slanted signs. That sign will be in both English and Spanish. Also, when I think about it, and this dawned on me as I was sitting there listening to the discussion, when people drive into town and they see the lighted changeable signs along the highway, traffic signs, they're usually in both languages also. And so I think, out of respect to our sister city and their language, I think it would be great to have both languages on the name of the park. Some of the people who came here in October from Monteverde were over at that area because we located a peace pole there. And so they were there it wasn't a dedication, it was just to show them where it was. And we also told them that we were working on an interpretive sign. And so I guess the point that I would make about the languages is that Spanish is the language of Monteverde, Costa Rica, and it's just a matter of respecting their language to have it in both. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
And this is a point, like I said, I'm not gonna die on this hill by any means. But does Monteverde have any park named after Estes Park? It'd be kind of
Not
Estes
yet.
Park. I get that.
In the materials that I gave you, I mentioned in the proposal that many cities that are involved in the Sister Cities International Program have parks or other monuments. Some of them have peace poles. Some of them have parks. When I was living in Mexico, I was involved with sister cities in Cuernavaca, Morelos. Cuernavaca is a sister city of Denver. So in Denver, there is a Cuernavaca City Park, and in Cuernavaca, there is a Denver City Park. I wasn't involved in any of those activities or in naming or anything like that, but having a park or another installation or some kind of a tribute to the relationship is very, very common. We don't have one, there's not one there yet.
Okay, so in the Denver situation that you just had, in the park that's in the other country, is that in English or is that in
I
Spanish?
could not answer that question.
Yes, that's my only thing. It's like, and this is no respect for the Spanish language, I wish I could speak it better.
Yeah.
I just think that if we had a park in Monteverde, I can't fathom that they would have it in English. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm totally off. I'm right there saying I may be totally off. And I just wonder, like this other park that's about Denver, if they have it in English or they have it in Spanish. I almost think it's more of a tribute to be in English here, and they're in Spanish. That's kind of how I look at it. It's not respectful to either one.
No, I
actually think it's
understand.
more of a tribute to do it in their native language.
I think in the packet materials that you received, there are maps showing both the Cuernavaca Park in Denver and the Denver Park in Cuernavaca. I don't have it memorized, but I think it's in your packet.
Yeah, we've reached our limit on public comment.
Okay.
To stay fair. I would take a motion if someone wants to make it.
So I want to make a comment first. I can't not take this opportunity to disagree with with Murray because she won't be on this board much longer for me to do this. I think it's totally appropriate to do both languages on it. It is a show of respect. It just seems to me to be the best way to do it. When this came up last meeting, I voted with Trustee Eigel because I do think long-term we need to have this process respected, but this was a sort of a rather unique thing, and this board has the ability to make an exception to its policy whenever it wants. And I think if ever there was a case for making exception. It's this. So with that, I would move to approve the request to rename Monteverde Park Monteverde as stated. I guess there's not a resolution number. I would move that.
And I'll second that.
Trustee Brown moved to approve the naming in both languages. Trustee Youngland seconded that. We can vote. Parque de Monteverde it is. That's the wrong language, actually. Okay, we are at 9:55. Really want to get to the bylaws. I don't know how long of a topic this is going to be, but I think we need a motion to extend past 10.
Mayor, I would move to extend our meeting past 10 p.m. in order to complete the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. We can vote.
Only because of Sarah.
All right, moving forward. Bylaws for the Estes Park Local Marketing District, Town Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all likely recall, in November 2025, you and the Town Board of County Commissioners entered into a restated intergovernmental agreement providing for the operations of Visit Estes Park. Section 6.8 of that IGA requires the Board of Directors to present approved bylaws to the town and the county for approval prior to March 2nd, 2026. That deadline was met. Those were emailed to the town and the county both. The district board approved those updated bylaws on February 19th and emailed them on February 24th. Following adoption by the district board, per that agreement, these bylaws and any amendments to the bylaws, future amendments, only become effective upon approval by both the town board and the Board of County Commissioners. So you are seeing this first. If the board approves these tonight, I would work with CEO Leonard to make sure that the county is also considering these so that we have effective bylaws for Visit Estes Park. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. CEO Leonard is also here if you have specific questions about the bylaws or the Visit Estes Park process.
Before we get to trustee comments, are there any public comments to be made? Seeing none. Trustees.
Sarah, I don't know if you wanted to make a few comments. I had a few notes from our board meeting in February where the board approved them, but I don't want to steal your thunder if you wanted to share anything. Okay. You've waited so long, so I just wanted to make sure. Just so the board is aware, and Marie, feel free to hop in if I miss anything, but as Town Administrator Mahalik said, that these updates are to better align with the new IGA. The amendments were reviewed by Visit Estes Park's legal counsel. Most of them are housekeeping, but there are some more major pieces related to ex officios. It kind of removes them from that designation and instead formalizes them as liaisons. So same kind of concept in terms of how they've been serving the board, but just cleans up so there's no misperception about them being voting members of the board. They're liaisons, and those are the Housing Authority, Scott Moulton, Carly Banks here from the town for the 6E Fund Connection, Kyle Patterson from Rocky Mountain National Park, and Colleen De Pasquale from the Chamber. So just wanted to clarify that. And then there was some public feedback about there's a piece in there about preference for lodging in terms of one of the board members, and there was some feedback from members of the chamber as well as some other members of the community about that preference for lodging, and so there was a short discussion from the board that the phrasing in there is may have a preference for lodging, does not require that it has to be lodging. So because that came up publicly, I wanted to share that here. I'm happy to expand on it in more detail, but I think it's been totally resolved and addressed. And then the bylaws were unanimously approved by the Visit Estes Park Board for your consideration, I think as Travis mentioned as well. So happy to answer any questions, or Marie, if you want to add anything.
No, the only thing I would like to add is I would like Sarah to come down and maybe make a comment too on it. Because number one, I think this board needs to have more meetings with her And I think this just introduces everybody more to her face. And for other reasons, to see if you have any comments about them.
I would only add, and thank you for the great summary and the support from Travis, that it was a good, short, brief discussion and at the Visit Estes Park board meeting, and that just to reiterate what Trustee Hazelton and Mayor Pro Tem said, it really gave us the opportunity not only to realign with the new or the restated IGA, but also to update our bylaws. We took the time to do some housekeeping items and bring the bylaws maybe more into a modern day. Yep.
That being said, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the bylaws for the Estes Park Local Marketing District.
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinak made the motion. Trustee Lancaster seconded. We can vote. Sarah, you win the shortest topic of the night. But you waited the longest. Yeah, except for Town Clerk Williamson. Report and discussion item, annual review of vacation home residential cap. No action needed on this one.
Thank you, board, for entertaining this item at this late hour. I wouldn't be proper if we didn't go past 10, Cindy, on your last meeting. You'll remember us forever. and one of our favorite topics too, vacation homes. So this is a requirement in the code that in and around April, very squishy, we will discuss the residential cap number. So we are bringing that forward tonight. I think really we are trying to align it too with this waitlist lottery we have coming forward. There's a couple housekeeping questions that I'd like to just see if we can get a little direction on tonight as well. So with that, we'll go through this quick review. This is a chart you've seen over the years. As you can tell, the residential with the cap has really flattened out. You see a slight dip there because we have currently 9 open spaces on the residential list. You also notice the commercial continues to go up. So people are finding other properties when they can't find a residential property to license. They are finding those commercial properties to license. Transferability is one of those other big topics that we talk about all the time. So as a reminder, October 18th, 2021 is when anything that was licensed after that date is non-transferable. So this just kind of is a housekeeping item we like to bring forward to you so that you can see how many applications we processed for transfers in 2025, and then how many we currently have that are not eligible to transfer, which again, we expect that number to continue to go up. And these 9 residential spaces we currently have open, we'll change that number in 2026 to potentially 34. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Inactive vacation homes, we had 2 last year. Both of those were due to not completing the application process in 2025 for the renewal process. But we do see a number of reasons why people have those vacation homes go inactive. But in 2025, they were both due to incomplete renewals or not completing the renewal process in time. As a reminder, you all approved the hosted vacation home language that went into effect on December 15th, 2025, which did provide for current bed and breakfasts that were licensed by May 23rd, 2023 to potentially either come into alignment with the new B&B language that we have in the code by January 31st, 2026, or they could have the option to apply for a hosted vacation home, and you guys decided that it would be okay for that to go up and above the cap, and that's the one thing I want to talk to you about tonight. So of the B&Bs, we had 11 at the end of 2025. 10 licenses were eligible to convert to a hosted vacation home. 1 license expired for failure to renew. 1 property which was ineligible to convert because it didn't meet that March 23rd, 2023 deadline. So it couldn't convert to a hosted vacation home, so it remained a B&B and did renew this year. 1 property met those requirements of the B&B code language, so we now have 2 B&Bs. We have 6 applications that are currently in process and to convert to a hosted vacation home. They're under planning review. And then we had 2 properties that held both a vacation home and a B&B license. They've both chosen to forego their B&B licenses and convert to a vacation home license. Those 2 are also currently under planning review. So that means we have 8 of the 11 previously that are looking to convert to a hosted vacation home. So again, this is just a quick chart to kind of show you over time what's happened to those B&B licenses. And again, we are at 2 now in 2026. We have initiated the waitlist lottery that was approved by you all and effective December 15th of 2025. We opened that waitlist lottery on March 5th, and we closed it on March 20th at 5 p.m. sharp. At the time of this presentation, when I put it together, we had 60 applications. We did end up closing that with 70 applications. Again, during putting this presentation together, 2 applicants were notified their properties were ineligible, and those were due to the fact that they had ADUs on their properties, which our codes don't allow you to have an ADU and a vacation home on the same property. We have 2 applications from people who were living in the county, or their properties were in the county, excuse me. So they were ineligible, of course, because this was for town properties. And then I think we might have a couple more in review right now, between 2 and 5. I don't have that exact number in my head, that are currently under planning review as well to see about their eligibility for the waitlist lottery. We do plan, once that's resolved this week, to have that lottery, hold that lottery on or after March 30th, just depending on if we have that planning review done. Once that's done, we will notify everyone who applied the status of their application. And again, as a reminder, this waitlist lottery is to populate a waitlist of 30, up to 30, which we have more than 30, so we will get to our 30. So really what I want to discuss with the board tonight is whether or not you all want to make any adjustments to the residential vacation home cap. Again, we sit at 313 residential vacation homes. We have 8 hosted vacation home applications out there that are converting from the B&B. So originally the board suggested that we go up and above that 322 cap with any B&Bs that might convert. So my real question to the board is whether or not that's what you intend to do. Are we going to pull off of the wait list to those 9 to get to 322, and then any that are converting to a B&B would be above and beyond? Or do we remain, take those 8, and that would leave 1 space open for the vacation home waitlist lottery to remain within that 322. Of course, the board could also reduce if you wanted to do attrition. We could leave the number at 313 or some other lower number, and through attrition, we would get to that number. Again, we could keep those bed and breakfasts above and beyond that 313 right now, but then reduce it to any number that you wanted to. So that's some just some thought stuff we had, and we wanted to just see if that direction still stood with the board, that you wanted it to be above and beyond that 322 for the B&Bs that are converting to hosted vacation homes, or remain within that cap of 322.
Trustee Brown.
So it was my understanding that we would raise it, but then decrease it And so since we're 9 below and we have 8 conversions, it seems to me that we're going to have 8 of those 9 taken up with these conversions so that we really only have 1 new spot available. That would be my understanding of how we propose to approach it.
Mayor and board, I would just say that under the existing code, I agree with that interpretation. I think that the way I wrote it was intended to reflect what the board wanted at the time, which is if we had reached the cap and we were trying to convert over to hosted vacation homes from B&Bs, then we would allow them to come in over the cap. But the waitlist lottery provisions all say that you only let people in off the wait list if there's room under the cap. So my interpretation would be under the current code, there would only be 1 spot under the cap.
Trustee Igo.
Jackie, can you scroll back to page 485 in the packet? And it's the one that shows the year and the total number. The town has been effective in moving these type of accommodations into accommodation zoned areas.
Oh, you're talking about this, I don't know what,
Yep,
you're talking
that
about this one.
Yep.
Got it.
So if we look, I mean, in 10 years, it's doubled the total number in town. In just 7 years, we've doubled the commercial. So we've got this cap on residential, but we're way up here on inventory for short-term rentals. I think that we reduce the residential rentals because they are, if the concern is having that type of accommodation in our community and listening to the community who says workforce housing, long-term housing, through attrition, it would seem that it would be a fair long-term way to reduce that number. But I would advocate for reducing the residential short-term rentals because there is so much opportunity in other areas to maintain that type of rental for a demanding tourist trade. I have heard more people against short-term rentals than in favor of them. And that would seem to be a fair way to go. So I would like to see us go down on residential numbers, on our residential cap through attrition.
I recall a statistic we looked at a few months back where of the 322, perhaps 50 or 60 would actually be able to be workforce housing. Most of the rest were beyond the criteria. So it's not 322. If you eliminated all 322, only 50 or 60 would actually be eligible for workforce housing. I do not remember the study, but I'm sure we can look it up. It was in a board meeting.
You know, I don't want to dump short-term rentals and assume they will become anything. I think that if we're going to influence the community and the economy to reflect the wishes of the community through attrition, we may be able to influence that by reducing that number, because there's no shortage of commercial availability for this type of accommodation.
Yeah, I do think it's important, though, that those against residential short-term rentals realize what I just said, and I would encourage us to find that from the past, because it was very relevant information to me. Trustee Brown.
Yeah, so that was the study that was done to justify the linkage fee, done by, I can't remember the name.
Root Policy.
Root Policy Group. And they had 3 different models that they were doing, and I think it was between, and this, they were looking at, I think, between about 5 and 10% of, one of the questions they were asked and they responded to was, if tomorrow you prohibited all short-term rentals in town, how many of those would re-enter the housing market for workforce? And it was maybe 10%. So it's not, and I think that is something you always hear about this, that it's a major impact on workforce housing, and it just isn't, because So many of these are so high-end that they're not really going to re-enter the workforce housing inventory the same way. And on top of that, I would say the counter argument here, I think your argument is a legitimate argument if the policy becomes we want to reduce in residential zones. However, I think what the numbers show you also is that because there's an increasing demand for this sort of lodging in our community. And that reflects a change in how people want to take their vacations. And I think it's important for us to address the demand that's out there for the tourist. And that is, I think, the reason not to reduce it, because the demand is there, or else you wouldn't have had this increase in the commercial area. And we do have kind of limits on how much we can add in the commercial area too, because there isn't that much commercial space available to make a short-term rental. So I would advocate keeping it the same, simply because we have a market to address in this, and part of that is unfortunately going to have to be satisfied through residential short-term rentals. So if we decrease it, we're going to put pressure on that market and maybe affect our tourist trade here.
Trustee Mayor Pro Tem.
I would be in favor of decreasing it. I think that the way I look at it is that my major concern is how the citizens of Estes Park are affected. And I still think it's residential zones. Here we talk about zones this, town forms, all that kind of stuff, respecting the residential areas. And I think that we're not respecting the residential areas. I think we're turning into commercial areas. I don't think all I don't think all vacation rentals are a problem in neighborhoods, but I do think they affect the feel of a neighborhood. I really do. And so if we have the others going out, especially commercial, so we have that feeling of any void, and we have plenty of hotel rooms at this point, I think that I would be in favor of decreasing the cap.
Trustee Youngland.
So, yeah, I think, I don't think we're gonna have a shortage of short-term rental, and I agree there is a travel sector that enjoys that type of accommodation. Although I know that the short-term rental in a residential is the issue with our community. With, you have a lot of different cars coming and going, and of course the noise, all those different things. So I don't think that it's going to affect our tourism. And I know we're increasing our beds in the community twofold, in my opinion. There's a lot of them. So I would like to see it decrease some. I don't want to do away with it totally. But I think this gives us an opportunity to bring the hosted in, but start to reduce it and let the future board decide kind of what number that they would like to see. I've had different communities at different meetings say, oh gosh, we were so behind the 8 ball on stopping short-term rentals in residentials. I wish, we were like Estes and had a cap earlier. So I feel fortunate that we took it upon ourselves to put that cap there, but I think it is a little bit high, and I'd like to still see it can increase in the commercial, but not so much in the residential. So I would be in favor of lowering it. I don't know what figure that needs to go to, but some would be great.
Trustee Hazelton.
I know you have told us this before, so I'm sorry. Can you remind me, did we land at 322? Because that was at that moment in time, how many? I know you have told me this.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. So the total number in the Estes Valley was 588 when we had the joint planning area.
Right.
That was the magical mathematical, I have no idea how exactly we came up with 588, but I believe a consultant gave us that number that they believed we had in the community in 15, 16. And then that was what was adopted. So then when the planning area was no longer in 2020, we looked at, after April, because that's when we used to do the renewals, on April 1st, we looked at where those numbers stood with the county and the town, and 322 was how many we had in the county, or at the town, excuse me, at that time. We had 266 in the county. So that's how we came to the 322, and it's been there since that 2020 date.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Yep. And as soon as you started talking about it, I'm like, yep, you've told me this a million times. So again, I think if we were to consider lowering, we'd have to do some work to decide what that number is and if that's an appropriate move. Again, I think what Bill's trying to get at with the market principle conversation and the guest experience that people expect and that makeup, I think I wouldn't want us to just kind of willy-nilly decide if we think that's the right move or the wrong move. I think resident feedback is part of that process, deciding if, we hear from some residents that they don't want short-term rentals in their neighborhood. That is some input that we need to consider. We need to consider what our lodging market looks like and where trends are going. And I think that, having some conversation with Visit Estes Park, or Jackie mentioned a consultant for that 588 number, whatever that looks like. So that balance of lodging to meet the needs of our guests is important to me as well. I don't know if this feels like it's kicking the can a little bit too much, but I wonder if this is something that could be part of a strategic plan, objective for the board to consider, is evaluating, a potential decrease by attrition of residential short-term rentals, but if it was a strategic plan objective to actually, put some funding behind what that magic number might be, or what, that it's a maybe multi-organizational project to help us decide. Because I think us 7 sitting up here and saying, let's try 300 and see if that works, that doesn't feel to me like the most appropriate data-backed decision about the various economic balances that influence our economy, and paired with what we are hearing from some residents. I think there'd have to be a more robust community input plan for that as well. Because I know of some folks who have no issue with hosted short-term, or with residential short-term rentals, truly. And so I think that, I don't know if that's something the board would want to consider, but that's where I would land right now. As far as your question for tonight, I would want to fold in the 8 to the 322 and then have that one spot available.
Trustee Lancaster.
Yeah, so I think this is a unique year because of that folding in. In reality, we have the 322 plus we have 8. So we really have right now 330. If we take what Trustee Brown and Trustee Hazelton talked about and fold this into down here, we really are going to reduce it from 330 to 322. If we wanted to take it down to 321 and take away that one extra one, that doesn't. But I think for this 1 year, I think taking those, folding them in there, we actually are reducing the number of actual short-term rentals by 8. And because this is a unique year, I'd support doing that this year and then having a longer discussion in the future whenever we have further.
Okay. I see the discussion has concluded. Do you have
Perfect. Yeah, nope,
information you need?
Nope, that's exactly what I needed to hear from the board, so I appreciate the feedback.
Thanks for staying up. This meeting is adjourned.